Sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest bus hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
I want to start off this afternoon by thanking Frank, one of our regulars here in the sports bar. Stopped us earlier in the week and said, I listened to your show and I find myself at odd hours of the day walking around humming your theme song. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, no problem, Frank. Glad we could put that earworm in your life. And thanks for taking us with you everywhere you go this week. And welcome into the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. We appreciate you listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app. And if you're checking us out on YouTube or Twitch, our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester, and streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. We appreciate you liking and subscribing there. Leave us a comment. Put a little wind in the sails. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
On the song, in there, and it's a catchy line because she's Italian.
Hey!
I didn't know Waters was an Italian name, Danger. Sandy Waters.
I mean, would you believe that she also uses a stage name?
Oh, my God.
I know.
So her real name is Sandy Danger. She doesn't want to go by Sandy Danger.
I'm going to blow your mind for a second here, but Mike Danger may be a stage name as well. I was getting lunch today, and the guy behind the counter was small talking. And, I'm usually open to that. I like it, friendly, personable. He goes, "What do you do?" And rather than try to tell him, I play a guy named Mike Danger on the radio every afternoon for 3 hours, I said, "Yeah, I'm in media." And I just left it at that. Maybe a missed opportunity on my part.
You should have just said, I host a radio show. And I'll do that. And they're like, "Oh, what station?" 95.7 and 950. I didn't even know there was a 95. Like, well,
yeah, nothing worse than that. Thanks. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. But yes, she has a stage name, as do I. However, Gene, I can say stage name aside, we're fairly popular 24 hours after Halloween. We're fairly popular in our neighborhood right now.
So you didn't get agged by other parents upset that you went full candy bar?
None that I saw. We were very popular.
Very popular.
Word on the streets travels fast. And we were out of full-size candy bars.
Oh, I was going to say, hey, bring in the leftovers here, bud. What do
we went through, I think Sandy bought 90 full-size candy bars. And those were gone before I got home. And I got home around 6:30. So the trick-or-treaters were out in force right around 6 o'clock. And within the first half hour, 45 minutes, gone.
Yeah.
And we're handing out fun-size M&Ms and Rice Krispie treats from that point on. But the word traveled fast. There were a lot of kids that came up for the full-size candy bar. And this is going to be the ultimate dad take. And I heard Scott Van Pelt talk about this on his show the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give him all the credit because it's fantastic. His thing is like, hey, when did Halloween, what happened to Halloween with trick-or-treaters? They'll come to your door and they'll just stand there with the bag open. And his thing is like, no. The transaction begins when you say the magic words. You have to say trick or treat. If you don't say trick or treat, you're not deserving of any of the treats that I give you. This is a transaction. It's Halloween. I'm in the spirit. I need a trick or treat out of you. And then you will get the treat. And if you give me a thank you, that will go over well as well. But it has to at least start. I know you're playing a zombie, but don't act like a zombie when you're there just holding out your bag open, hoping that I'm going to dump a bowl of candy in there without you saying anything.
Well, I always told my kids, you have to say thank you.
Yes.
And so, like your neighborhood, by the time I got home, I felt like I missed the main rush, but I got to, do this for an hour or so last night, and it was like 50-50. And there's some kid coming up, and he's in a Jaguars uniform. I'm like, hey, can I get a Go Bills? No. Come on. No. All right, here you go. Didn't get a thank you.
So I had a group of kids come up, and there was maybe like 4 kids, and one of them just had his bag open, didn't say anything. The other 3 all said trick or treat. I gave the 3 that said trick or treat their little treats, and the kid with the bag looks at me and he's like, did you already give me one? And I said, no, I don't think I did. He's like, oh. And then there was a mother there.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say trick or treat. He goes, oh, trick or treat? I'm like, there we go. Now the treat. And then he said thank you afterwards. Like, give me a little trick or treat. Get into it. If this transaction is going to happen, you have to be proactive.
Did this happen in your neighborhood? I've never seen this before. Parents dressing up, too.
It depends on the age of the kid.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, some of them look like, they were furries walking around. Like,
I saw Fred and Wilma, Fred and Wilma Flintstone with their baby. It depends on the age of the kid. If they're into it, they're into it. I have no problem with it. If you want to dress up your kid and your kid can't speak, or your kid's a toddler or whatever it is, and you're in the spirit with your kid, I think that's fantastic. I have zero issue with that. I will also say, another observation, too many golf carts.
Golf carts?
Golf
now,
carts.
Like, what is this?
This is not
the villages?
This is not the villages. And I know I've got people in my neighborhood with golf carts, and look, you have them. If you're having fun, I'm not going to stop you from having the fun that you're having with your golf carts. But I'm telling you, it is completely unnecessary. You don't need the golf carts. What are we doing? And there are people that it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it, but I'm okay with it. There are people in my neighborhood that want to bomb the golf carts. Like, be careful starting up your golf cart in my neighborhood. You've seen The Godfather, okay?
Well, they're illegal.
This ain't the villages.
They're illegal, isn't that? But nobody. You do have a cop that lives on the street.
We have, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And we may have the chief of North Greece Fire Department as well.
I hear that too.
So yes, we have some prestige in our neighborhood that can take care of that. But on a night where you have record temperatures, where it's not cold, it's not raining, you're still going to take the golf cart. You're not going to trek. You're not going to walk. You're not going to lather up a little bit? I mean, my nephew is 11. He was like, we were all sweating because we were running from house to house. I'm like, yeah, that's Halloween. That's good. That normally you don't get that because the weather's cold. He had a blast. Now for the bad news.
You didn't bring it, did you?
I didn't get any.
Of course you didn't.
I didn't get any.
It's a myth.
What, you think that Nerds Gummy Cluster is a national myth?
Like the Mike and I grape.
You think the Nerds Gummy Cluster is a national? Peter was enjoying them last night. Just last night. Our regular, Peter.
Really?
Yes.
Peter knows Photoshop. That's really great, Danger.
How dare you?
I was going to bring some in for you.
I'm not really mad at you as much as I'm mad at my daughter. She's 15. She went out with friends. I don't know what neighborhood she went into. She came home. The haul was weak. It was a weak haul. I questioned whether or not she even went out. I'm like, did you even go? Where did you go? Well, we went into this neighborhood. I'm like, did you go door to door? Because it looks like you went to every fourth house. And you had perfect conditions. What? I mean, I'm like undressing her like a freaking football coach. I'm like, this is unacceptable. This is an unacceptable effort. On a night where you could have been historic, you let us all down.
Get back out there.
Get back out there and get me some Nerds Gummy Clusters for Gino. What's wrong with you? Don't you know how important this is for me? This is an important night. I have to take away a percentage of your candy to teach you a lesson. Now get out there and get after it.
It's okay. You know why? Because Friday, this is the first Friday night since August. Actually, I know exactly the day. It was the day of the Spazzano and Sandy event at Three Heads.
Yeah.
And I was up in Montreal with the executive producer. That was the last Friday night that her and I, last time we went out until tonight. So it would have been a bad look if, we're going out today. I'm like, you know what, hon? I'm not really all that hungry. I manged on this candy all afternoon.
I might have to bite the bullet and just buy a family-size bag for the studio. I mean, I think it'd make both of us happy. I'm telling you, you're going to try this candy, and you're going to be like, what is this? What is this innovation? What is this witchcraft that they have come up with there at the Wonka Candy Factory? Because I got the normal crunch that I get from a Nerd, but there's also a gummy feel with the Nerd Gummy Cluster. And if you don't believe it exists, just go to the people that have engaged with my candy rankings. A percentage of them are all like, yep, they're the best. No question about it. They're people we work with, people that we know. They're all saying the same thing.
The candy business is odd where, like, all the candies have been around for like 100 years, right? Like, there's no real new innovation when it comes to candy.
I'm out there saying this is the best innovation in candy since the late 70s and the introduction of the Sour Patch Kid, the Nerd Gummy Cluster. It's that strong. And it might be number one again next year. I really don't know that there's anybody taking it down. I mean, I've sampled a lot in the last 24 hours, and nothing has compared to the Nerd Gummy Cluster. Nothing. A lot of the items on my list yesterday, I've sampled. Still wish I had a Nerd. Still upset that my daughter didn't bring home the goods with a quarter full pillowcase. Come on. Where's the effort? This is an important night, and we had perfect conditions. Missed opportunity. We got a great show lined up for you. Our old friend Marcel Louis-Jacques stops into the sports bar later this afternoon, 4:25. Marcel used to cover the Bills, now covering the Dolphins at ESPN, and you see him all over the network now. He's become a star within ESPN, so we're very excited to have him back in the sports bar later this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll talk to him about the Dolphins and what chances he gives Miami here to come into Buffalo, what has to happen, but I guess bigger picture, I think we're more curious about beyond this game here. What happens in Miami if it is a non-playoff year? How are they going to manage to what about the head coach? Is he in any trouble here? It was all great last year, but this year, when Tua went out, what the heck happened? It's like the whole team just kind of disappeared. And then you come back against Arizona and you're losing at home. So we'll talk to Marcel Louis-Jacques coming up at about 4:25.
I just want to ask the question simply, and I think we've said this throughout the course of the week, because a lot of people will say Miami's going to come in here and they're desperate. And I challenge that a little bit. I'm like, are they desperate or are they defeated? Because I think they might be a little bit more defeated than they actually are desperate. The way they lost to Arizona at home with Tua returning, knowing you have Buffalo on deck, you needed that win if you had any chance of making the postseason. And save me, Jets fans. You can spare me. You're not making the postseason. You're not winning.
Oh, no, we're running the table.
You're not running the table.
We're running the table.
Knock it off. Knock it off. We all watched that game. You guys are not good. You are not. That was two bad football teams last night. That first half was unwatchable.
I'll give you credit on Houston. You called that right away. I thought, Houston's going to be a problem. You're like, no. They're going to struggle, and I think you predicted, 8-9, somewhere around there, that they would miss the postseason?
I think that there's a regression there, yeah. and they can't protect CJ right now, and he's run out of some weapons. Maybe they get better with Nico Collins back in the lineup. But, yeah, and I think the defense is still okay, but they're not the same team that beat the Bills in Week 5. And if the Bills were to have to face them again in the postseason, I wouldn't be as worried about them as there are other teams out there, I think, that are far more worthy. And I'm not – the Jets, I think a lot of people, Vegas told us the Jets were going to win that game, right? Vegas knows. And the Jets were favored at home. And we all looked at it like, what is a 2-win Jets team doing being favorites against Houston? And Vegas knows.
Well, to bring it back to the Dolphins and that Vegas knows sort of thing, the line remains 6.
Okay.
That's strange. Dan Fates joined us yesterday. He was thinking the same thing. Like, that is really weird. It causes me to throw on the brakes here, knowing. And then I just kind of pause. And then, what's been some of the issues that the Buffalo has had this year? Well, at times stopping the run. Achane, certainly good. But getting off to those slow starts.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're going to circle a game that would be a candidate for a slow start, perhaps it's the game where your quarterback was at the World Series and partying with his starlet girlfriend for Halloween. Maybe that's the week that you really would say a slow start. I think if you want to fight that, you don't have a slow start on Sunday. If you want to, because there are plenty of reasons to say that they would have a slow start this week, given just what we've seen out of the Bills. It's not a bye week. And it's, look, good for Josh Allen. I'm sure he got everybody's approval to be like, hey, can I do this? Yes, that's a good idea.
It's his off day.
Yes.
I don't think he has to ask anybody. And if he's paying for the charter flight.
Got back in time for the meetings. Everything was cool.
Honestly, like, they live a lifestyle that we can't comprehend. Hey, let's go to the World Series tonight. Great, no problem. You watch the game. You're on a flight at 11. You're in bed by 1 a.m. and you're up by 7 and ready to go, and you're at practice. What?
Yes, assuming that that's exactly how it went. They're back in time for meetings, and everything is cool, and no harm, no foul.
Or did they go out after?
Right.
I don't know.
That's what we don't know. Yeah. And the same goes for a Halloween party where you're dressed up in costume with Haley Steinfeld. And, look, live your life, man. He should live his life. He's a star. But if there was a game that would be a candidate for a slow start, I would say it would be this one, based on just what we've seen through the course of this week. I don't know that I believe that. I don't believe that that's going to happen. I think that the Bills are going to be okay this weekend.
I kind of think that why is sharp money going on here? I'm going to lean with the sharps. I think the Bills win this game, but they're not going to cover. Bum, bum, bum. Maybe it's the form of some sort of backdoor cover for the Dolphins there. 27-24, Buffalo.
Okay. I got 35-17. And I think Tua will be able to, will the Bills be able to completely stop the run? No, there'll be some plays. I'm sure there'll be some plays. There always are. They've been very bend but don't break. But I believe that this Dolphins team is more defeated than they are desperate. You've got an injured, less than 100% Tyreek Hill, who's having the worst season of his NFL career. You have a head coach who I think has lost the locker room. I don't think that his message is resonating with his guys anymore. But we'll see if they are desperate. Oh, we have breaking news? Breaking news in the sports bar.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Does this change your mind? Probably not, but we already knew Reggie Gilliam was going to be out. 3 players are questionable. Not questionable. Ready to go. Terrell Bernard. Well, that's certainly good. Getting him back. Christian Benford's questionable with the wrist. Amari Cooper is questionable. Curtis Samuel is questionable.
Yep. That's the Bills injury report officially out now, right? So Bernard is good to go. Benford questionable with the wrist injury. Gilliam out. And both Cooper and Samuel questionable going into the game. Amari Cooper with the wrist. Curtis Samuel with his pec. It doesn't change my mind. 35-17 Bills. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, will be stopping by here in another 10, 15 minutes or so. And we'll get your Week 9 lineup set for fantasy football. Week 9, of course, getting underway last night with that Jets and Texans matchup in the Meadowlands. And there's no shortage of storylines as there is every year. And you've got injuries and you've got quarterbacks being benched and you've got a lot of questions. Andy will help give you some answers and help you set the best possible lineup this weekend.
Actually, how quickly we move here in the sports bar. We haven't talked to Andy since, you want to bring it up? You want me to bring it up? He's a Bears fan just like you, Danger.
Yeah. Well, I may have sampled a little bit of Chicago sports talk radio this week. It's a war zone.
Oh, they're assessing blame.
They
are assessing blame.
It's a war zone. They want heads. And Matt Eberflus is public. Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron need to have a little bit of a come to Jesus in Arizona.
Yeah, this has to be a bounce back. Andy Behrens, by the way, dressing up as Andy Dalton for Halloween.
I saw that. I like the look. Went with the red hair, the red beard, the whole thing. Very distinguished. Yeah. He's Andy Dalton. No question about it. He went beyond the 14 jersey with the red beard and the red hair as well. So we'll have Andy on here in just a few, and we'll look at some of the more compelling matchups here, see what matchups we can exploit to optimize your Week 9 lineup in fantasy football. Our lines are always open for you at 866-4326. You can pull up a stool and join us anytime. We'll get to a round of shots during happy hour after 5 o'clock as well. We have some takes. And we have free tickets to see Dweezil Zappa. Now, Gene, I know that you're not a big Dweezil Zappa guy. Frank Zappa guy?
No, but I know a lot of people are. This is a cool show there.
Yeah. I just remember Dweezil Zappa, the kid of Frank Zappa, during my hair band phase as a teenager. He had a song called My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama. And it was everything you would expect out of a Zappa type. But he is he's electric and a really, really talented player. And he's coming to Kodak Center April 15th, 2025. Tickets are on sale now. They went on sale this morning at 10 a.m., and we have a free pair of tickets for you right now. If you're caller 5, join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Caller 5, a free pair of tickets to see Dweezil Zappa at Kodak Center April 15th, 2025 from the Fan Rochester.
Amari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Curtis Samuel. Reggie Gilliam has been ruled out. Head coach Sean McDermott on the trade deadline.
I'm really not focused on that whatsoever. Focused on the challenge in front of us this weekend. Can't wait to play in front of our fans. That's a job for Brandon and his staff. And if something comes up, then he'll let me know. But right now our focus is solely on this weekend's game.
And this weekend's game being Sunday, Bills and Dolphins, 9 a.m. Our pregame coverage will begin Sunday. And then it's Chris Brown, Eric Wood, Sal Capaccio with the call beginning at 1. Hockey tonight here on The Fan. The Amherst first to 2 in Utica. Don Stevens, the Hall of Famer, on the call beginning at 7. Sabres and Islanders are tonight on WCMF. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. We're going to call an audible at the line of scrimmage. Andy Barron's unavailable today, but we'll catch up with him again next week here on the Fan Rochester every Friday at 3:25. Fridays at this time we have the privilege of talking to Andy Barron from Yahoo Fantasy. Too bad that we couldn't get him on today. Really wanted to, bust his chops about dressing up as Andy Dalton for Halloween last night on Fantasy Football Live.
Busted his chops that his team had the worst loss in the NFL
all
this
right,
season.
all right, all right.
Like that was the worst loss since 13 seconds. Would you agree? In the NFL,
it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even the worst loss this week, though. In sports, I mean.
Oh, right. No, the Yankees.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We talk a little bit of fantasy football here, but just quickly on the Yankees, because I've been thinking about it here in the last 24 hours in retrospect here. Looking at the Yankees, looking at their roster, looking at their season, can someone tell me exactly how the Yankees made the World Series? Look at their roster, look at their season. And I'm not trying to be a D. It's just not a great roster, right? You have a first baseman and catcher who can't hit. Volpe is very hit or miss, mostly can't hit. You have 3 superstars, but other than that, an easy lineup to get through. 1 ace in your starting rotation. Everyone else is spotty. A bullpen that's mediocre at best. And no threat off the bench. Absolutely zero. They're a very average World Series team. Really no different than last year's Yankee squad, only with the full season of Judge and the addition of Soto. So I guess if I'm going to put a bow on the Yankee season, I think they're going to continue to be good enough to get by, but I don't think this team is good enough to win the World Series.
Well, you're bringing up all good points, and I would say like the Bills and the AFCs, it starts in the division. What was the AL East this year? And honestly, the Orioles were fun. They've got a lot of young talent. Their starting pitching was terrible. Their bullpen fell apart. The team faded right down the stretch. You knew they weren't going to be. Boston, okay, they're 500.
They were farting around.
They were farting around. The Jays, massive disappointment. And I look at the Rays like, okay, that wasn't their year, and I don't know what to expect out of them since they're going to be kind of homeless this year. They won enough games. They had favorable matchups. Getting the Royals in the divisional round. The Royals is that team that was happy to be there, superstar. But really, what else much did they have? The Guardians should have been the team, Danger. They play a little bit better brand of baseball, I would say. But the Yankees have always been that all or nothing team. And since the loss, I was reading this piece in the New York Post just in regards to how the Yankees, when it comes to base running and fielding, the metrics, they're one of the worst teams in the league.
Terrible. And I should have prefaced by saying, look, I didn't watch every Yankees game all season. I watched a lot of Yankee games, so I didn't watch all Yankee games. And I know some of you will watch every single Yankee game. And I feel like saying what I said, if you're watching every single game, if you're a Yankee fan, it probably rings true. You just have to look in the mirror and realize, like, this team was pretty fortunate to make it to the World Series. And that roster does not mimic what you would normally see out of a World Series roster.
Well,
pitching is everything in the postseason.
In that being said, had Aaron Boone made the right decisions in Game 1, just go back to Game 1. If you split in Los Angeles, it's so different. You had that game. You gave it away. You don't get to Freddie Freeman if Ohtani doesn't get to third base because you overthrew the ball.
Yeah.
Or you didn't have Rizzo backing him. There's a lot of fat on that team. That there's also, I would say, for the Yankees. You can retool that. But how do you recover from that? How do the Bills recover from 13 seconds? They haven't yet. How do you recover the Yankees after that disastrous inning?
They haven't recovered, and maybe they don't recover, but they can continue to be relevant. They can be good enough.
But you're going to wonder, just like how we wonder, was that the best chance? Because then you remember, boy, you would have been home against the Bengals. You would have liked your chances.
If you don't have Soto next year, yes. If Soto's playing somewhere else next year, then I think it's fair to say, like, oh my man, that was our opportunity. We're not going to be able to replace that.
I see the Mets making a big run at Soto.
Sure.
You want to tweak your opponent. You want to say, hey, we're the fun team. Come on over here.
Did I hear Maggie and Perloff this morning say that there were 12 teams that put in a call on Soto? 12.
Yeah.
This bidding war is going to be ridiculous, and who knows where he ends up. He's going to be the highest bidder. That's where he's going to go.
Well, and people are like, how can this be? How could I? They're making money in baseball. Baseball grossed more money in 2023 than the NBA. Like, we don't realize that, but baseball has the revenue streams. Baseball does a lot wrong, okay? They really do. And the competitive balance, it's out of whack to the point where some of these teams don't even try. I feel really bad for Pirate fans. But the teams that do pay the luxury tax, who would be the 12 teams? I mean, you could have teams like the Rangers on the bidding. The Cubs should be in on that danger. What about the Dodgers? Look, we were joined by Lee Steinberg yesterday.
He wants them. Bring it back to the West Coast.
That wouldn't be fair. It really wouldn't be fair. But what they're doing with Ohtani shouldn't be legal. Like, basically, it's all deferred.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that, signing a big player? Like, it doesn't count right now. We're just going to defer it. Do they pull some sort of deal like that with Ohtani or with Soto?
I can tell you that if there are 12 teams, I'd be shocked if the Dodgers weren't one of the teams that were in play. I would imagine the Phillies are in play. Of course, the Mets are in play. 12 teams? 12 teams. He's going to rake.
What happened to the Red Sox? The Red Sox always used to be one of these teams. Yeah. And then somewhere, we're not going to pay Mookie Betts. Oh, yeah, the shortstop, we'll let him go to San Diego. They got cheap. They did. So, we're going to go younger. Okay.
Well, I don't know. The more I think about that roster and the more I think about what they were last season versus what they were this season, the differences and them getting all the way to the World Series, really evaluating that roster. And I know that the Dodgers really didn't have any starting pitching either, but they had exceptional pitching. I mean, like, for not having a good starting rotation, not really having a starting rotation, their pitching, their bullpen was fantastic. And the Yankees weren't really scaring anybody with their arms. And furthermore, when you get outside the three superstars, it's a very manageable roster.
I like picking up Jazz Chisholm, but he's not a third baseman. Like, honestly, Torres saying, no, I'm a second baseman only. Okay, I want to see how that kind of plays out. Like, because really you have two second basemen on that team, and maybe you make a bold move and move one of the two this offseason. You should consider that. And I would move off Anthony Rizzo. He's old. He's not going to get any better.
Can't hit.
No.
Can't hit.
No, look, is it going to get any better with Stanton? That's the problem. There's guys that are beyond the curve there.
Well, it'll be an interesting offseason. There are already trades happening. The Angels are they're getting in front of everybody. I can't remember who they acquired.
Soler.
Yeah, there was another one, though, today. I think that the Angels another acquisition that the Angels made for cash considerations. And I'm trying to remember what team it was off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Oh, Kingery. All right. I mean, he's okay.
From the Phillies.
He played for Lehigh Valley last year. So, okay. Like, the Phillies are like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a Francesa. If you're new to the show.
If you're new to the show, Francesa is a...
Oh, who cares?
Oh, you're getting Kingery. Wow.
Oh, who cares?
Good for you, man.
I feel like you have to play every once in a while the whole thing that led up to that soundbite, Danger. I don't know. Do we still have that?
Yeah, I do.
if somebody dies, you shouldn't say who cares. That's how you and I were like, wait, that's
Too good.
Eddie in Hoboken. What's up, Eddie?
Hey, what's up, Mike?
What's happening?
Hey, Mike, Stan Lee died today. Did you ever meet the guy? What do you think of him?
Stan Lee.
Yeah, Stan Lee.
I don't
Never
know who
heard of
he
Stan
is.
Lee?
Don't know who he is, no.
Jesus.
Who is he? Who is he? Who is Stan Lee?
He was one of the creators of Marvel Comics.
Oh, who cares? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not a comic book guy. Is that who he is, Stan Lee? The guy
He created Spider-Man. That was his big thing.
created Spider-Man? Sorry. I never was a comic book reader as a kid. I apologize. Never.
He apologized. I think my favorite is Eddie in Hoboken's reaction to him not knowing Stanley. Jesus!
They cut him right off.
Come on, Mike. Jesus!
Eddie in Hoboken.
Hey. Of course, Eddie in Hoboken knows who Stan Lee is. 'Cause he's Italian! It was fun while it lasted, though, with the Yankees. That one game that gave them a little bit of confidence. Man, my feed was full of just Yankees content and all the Yankee fans. Yeah! We're back, baby! Yeah!
It was a fun 24 hours with the Goombas out in right field.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys. They're protecting the wall. They're D'ing up. I like that kind of passion. Yeah.
You know, they're going to be allowed to have their seats next year.
Oh, yeah, for sure they are.
Yeah, and they're going to be like, hey, can we go meet them? They're going to be quasi-celebrities.
For sure. For sure. You might as well go ahead and bronze those seats for those two gentlemen. Those seats will be infamous for years to come at Yankee Stadium.
I want to ask you some fantasy football questions. That if you keep tuning in for Andy Behrens, apologize. We're going to get him on next week. What do you do if you've got Jordan Love? How do you view this matchup? It's going to be a game we're all going to watch in the late TV window. Detroit Green Bay should be a lot of fun. But there's a few concerns fantasy-wise. Number one, Jared Goff outdoors. There's kind of a trend, but this is the game you would think that Detroit wants to sit up straight and show this is our division. But then Jordan Love, we expect him to be out there, but how effective is he actually going to be?
And how effective has he been, really? I mean, Jordan Love hasn't really been lighting the fantasy world on fire here. The team is winning, but he's been just okay.
He's had a few good games, but last week, not able to finish up. It's Malik Willis leading them to the win over Jacksonville. So, are you going to have a shell of Jordan Love out there? How does that impact your game? Right, they're not going to say until Sunday, maybe Saturday night, that Love is starting here, but that's something you're going to have to monitor.
I mean, I'd be starting Josh Jacobs. Jen Reed, I'd probably still start as a flex maybe. Goff is interesting to me because he's been so good. He's been so efficient. And I don't know how much he will be impacted by being outdoors, but it is going to be a different environment. He hasn't played a game outdoors yet this year. We're making an awful big deal out of it. No Jamison Williams, but he still has a lot of talent on that roster. And I like Goff. I think Goff has had a really, really good season. I saw a stat that he's thrown more touchdowns than he's been sacked and intercepted, which is a ridiculous ratio. So Detroit right now, going into Green Bay,
59 in rain.
Right around a 2.5-point favorite against the Packers. And you're saying rain is in the forecast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm deviating from any of my Lions players. I think, Love is somebody to monitor. And I think if he's out there, you have to start him unless you have obviously an obvious better option. But man, on a week where you have murkiness at the quarterback position with a lot of teams, who's New England starting? Who's Tennessee starting? Not that you're starting Jacoby Brissett or Will Levis, but there's a lot of question marks with not just the quarterbacks, but with what's around them. Joe Burrow is going to be without T. Higgins again, listed as doubtful now. And we know that offense doesn't look the same when Higgins isn't out there.
Yeah, the Ravens favored by 6 in this game. Excuse me, that's next week. Who do the Bengals get?
The Bengals have the Raiders.
The Raiders,
I'm sorry. And the Bengals are favored by a touchdown.
Yeah, I was looking the wrong week. The one game I do want to ask you about, the Sunday night game, which they flexed into this. What do we get here with Joe Flacco? Now, what I predict is if there's anything to it, Danger, that the reason that Steichen, the coach, made this move, part of it was, hey, this is kind of the read in the locker room. I need to save myself at the locker room. I need to tell these guys in the locker room, if they know Richardson isn't the guy that I'm trying to get these guys to respond, then Joe Flacco, I think, will be okay. I think Joe Flacco can step in there and for a short burst kind of show some energy. Am I crazy for thinking that he's a good streaming option against the Vikings?
I don't think that's crazy at all. I think Joe Flacco is going to be a good streaming option, not just this weekend, but for the rest of the season. I don't know that Richardson gets back on the field short of an injury. And that's not to say that they're punting on Richardson. I think you need a little bit of time here. Because what you say is spot on. I believe that this is going to follow him, not the poor play, the tapping out. The tapping out is going to follow him. He's going to hear about this now for the rest of his career. This is the thing that's he's not going to be able to evade it. It's with him. And his teammates aren't going to forget it. His opponents aren't going to forget it. He needs a little bit of time, and maybe given a little bit of time, we forget it less or it matters less because he can show up and make plays at some point and win back the trust of his teammates, win back the trust of his coach. But I'd be shocked if barring injury to Joe Flacco, we see Anthony Richardson again this year. I think Flacco is going to be productive. I don't know that the Colts are winning this game, but I think Flacco will be productive.
Yeah, it gives us a little opportunity to watch the Bills' next opponent against Sunday night. Baker Mayfield. Now, we have more data points on the Buccaneers, what this offense looks like without their top two receivers here. At least one will be out for the rest of the year in Godwin. Oh, they go into Kansas City. That's the Monday night game. So we'll have time to talk about this on Monday, but you need to set your fantasy lineup in advance. And are you shying away here from Baker Mayfield? It all depends on your options.
All right, let me throw you my dilemma, okay? In one of my leagues, it's not a 2-quarterback league. I got to start one. I've got Jared Goff, and I've got Baker Mayfield.
It's Jared Goff.
It's Jared Goff, right?
Yeah, it's Jared Goff.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, this is the time where I think the Lions say, all
Baker
right,
Mayfield has been a more productive fantasy quarterback this season. As good as Goff has been, Mayfield has been, for fantasy purposes, better. And it's always a struggle, but I think to myself, all right, well, who's Mayfield throwing it to? And we saw him last week without Godwin, without Evans, still have a productive fantasy day. The interceptions are problematic. Cade Otton, if you've got Cade Otton, he's the guy. And if the running backs are healthy, it's a three-headed attack in that backfield. But certainly Bucky Irving to go with White and maybe even a little Sean Tucker out of the backfield. That's become the Buccaneers' passing game. So I expect that in most weeks, Baker Mayfield will remain productive for fantasy purposes, but I do think he's going to struggle in Kansas City against the Chiefs this weekend on Monday night.
I would imagine there's somebody listening right now, there's the Browns fan that might actually be going to the game this week. Chargers and Browns. I would imagine it's not that expensive if you wanted to, if the Bills weren't your cup of tea. Low over-under on this one, 42.5, and it's actually the Chargers as the road favorite. If I had to say which team is more, not to run the table, but which team that was down and out, and certainly the Browns at 1 win, now they're at 2, would be more likely to recover and make the postseason. Is it the Jets or is it the Browns? I'm leaning Cleveland here.
I'm with you. I actually think, why do we like Jameis Winston the way we do? I think it's because Jameis Winston, it kind of embodies all of us, right? Like, he's not perfect, and he's authentic. He doesn't filter himself. He doesn't prepare. He doesn't rehearse his pregame speeches. He's just a guy who's got a lot of personality and let me just do it and I'll answer for it later. And right now with the Browns, I think that's exactly what they need. I think everybody's buying into him. I think they're following this guy. I kind of like the Browns at home to take care of the Chargers. Call me crazy. I think the Browns win that game.
I'm with you. It's like it's only you're getting points too.
Yeah, I give them a better chance to what you were originally saying about them versus the Jets. If there's a team that's down and out or that you consider down and out, even though the Jets won last night, I'd still give Cleveland a better chance of making it to the postseason than I would the Jets. I think that's an interesting matchup there in the early window in Cleveland.
Bears and Cardinals. We do the who's hot, who's cold every week. I said, hey, who's cold? Roma Dunze. He's not getting targeted. You're not playing him. Okay, the Bears are getting 1 point, which seems a little fishy to me here, Danger. I would think the Cardinals would be much more heavily favored in this game. Or is Vegas thinking they look at the trends after just a nightmarish loss that the Bears have, they're going to bounce back in the desert?
I think these teams are more identical than I mean, it was a pick 'em earlier in the week, and that feels right because I don't know how good Arizona is, and I don't know how good the Bears are. I know that the Bears love to beat themselves up. The Bears are going to be without Jaquan Brisker again in the defense. This is a concussion now that's lasted since the London trip, so you have to worry about his long-term health here. And the Cardinals are playing better, but I don't know that I would say that the Cardinals are a good team. Certainly Marvin Harrison has shown up from time to time, and Kyler Murray is playing well. They do enough to get by Miami, but what does that mean? How good is Miami? Miami, again, I feel like Miami's a team that's kind of quit already, that they've already packed it in, and Arizona just barely gets by. We saw Arizona earlier this year, and I don't think much has changed with that team. I think the Bears can get one over on Arizona in the desert. In fact, I think they need to get that stench off of them from the Washington loss. I think it's imperative for them to go in there and hopefully, much like the Bills in the Hail Murray, they're able to use it and propel themselves into, a different kind of lean. Like, okay, well, that's never going to happen again. And they play with a different focus and intensity moving forward. That's my hope, at least, as a fan. But
I could see it falling apart, though.
You absolutely
could see Arizona, that they're playing much better now. They're starting to get their footing. That was knowing what Miami needed to do last week with Tua coming back for Arizona to find a way to win that game. That was impressive. What do Eagle fans think of Doug Peterson? This is the game they flexed out of Sunday Night Football, so there goes that storyline, and I don't fault them for flexing out because Jacksonville is not a good team. We thought Peterson would be fired by this point. He's not. The Eagles coming off a rather impressive win at Cincinnati, and the Eagles favored by 7.5. As much as I want to say, hey, Doug Peterson's going to have everybody, and this will be a one love in, it's going to be a back-and-forth game, I don't see this being very interesting.
Eagles are playing good football right now. Yeah, and I think they win, and I think they cover. Jacksonville's Jacksonville. And Jalen Hurts is playing really good football, and whatever schism there is between he and Sirianni, I don't know if it's affecting the outcome. A.J. Brown feels like a key. When A.J. Brown isn't in that lineup, all kinds of problems. But when you get A.J. Brown in the lineup, feels like they're complete. They can do everything they want to do offensively. And I don't think Jacksonville's going to have a chance to slow them down. The Eagles have to beat themselves in order for them to lose that game at home against Doug Peterson and the Jags. I don't see it.
And then the Giants coming off the Giants are a bad watch. If it's not for Neighbors, they're unwatchable.
Will this be the final game behind center at MetLife Stadium for Daniel Jones?
It should be. But are they going to have the comfort and security of, I don't know if they do.
They lose to Washington at home. Season's over. What are you doing? You're trying to win games. You're evaluating talent. You hanging on to Daniel Jones, or you benching him?
Well, they go overseas after this, so you don't have to worry about this. They go over to Germany next week.
Yep.
So that's the game against Carolina.
Oh, God. Thanks, NFL.
This is what they used to do with all the overseas games. Like, oh, yeah, you really don't want to watch this, but if you really, really did, wake up early with us. Yeah. Then they come home against the Buccaneers, Cowboys, Saints, Ravens.
They're winning any of those games, Gino?
Well, they're winning Carolina. I think Daniel Jones, whatever happens, does. To answer your question, I mean, it's ultimately he's doomed. He should be out, but oh gosh, their Thanksgiving. Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I don't know. If I'm the Giants, I'm kind of taking a page out of what Carolina and Tennessee are doing. Now it's a race to the bottom. Who's getting that number one overall pick? I don't know that anybody is playing in Carolina. I think the Saints -7, I'm running to get the Saints to cover against Carolina because Carolina's injury report is lengthy, and I don't think they're very good, obviously. And Tennessee's got similar issues. They don't know who their quarterback is going to be. So everybody's fighting for that top spot in the draft. Next year, I think the Giants should go ahead and join that race.
Isn't it refreshing? Like before Josh Allen showed up on the scene, we're talking draft in October.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to be the number 1 pick? Oh, I don't know. Who's that guy? Yours? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think of Carson Beck? You think he'd look good in Buffalo? Yeah, sure. Quinn Ewers? Yeah, absolutely. We would. We'd be talking college quarterbacks. Man, fortunate, very fortunate, and hope it doesn't change anytime soon. Let's hope that we have an embarrassment of riches at the position the way Green Bay has had for generations now, the way Pittsburgh was that way. I guess you could say that the Colts were fortunate to go from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, and they haven't really recovered from losing Andrew Luck at that position. So just a few of the games that we're paying attention to for fantasy purposes here as we get ready for the remainder of the Week 9 NFL schedule on Sunday and on Monday night. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy Sport will stop by next Friday, 3:25 his normal time, and we'll get all of his fantasy advice next week for Week 10 here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, our apologies, but life sometimes happens. Coming up, and I'll drink to that, I think for this game, Sunday Danger, there's going to be something very cool, something that hasn't really happened here that actually you can kind of say, oh, it was a cool moment from Bills Dolphins, and kind of dive into this.
Weather's going to be nice on Sunday too, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The vibes are going to be immaculate. And if this happens, I know it's going to be a special scene. And also, I'd like to point out that a new takesman has entered the space. And it's somebody that we have been critical of in the past for his words and some of his actions on the field.
I thought your words, Bob Costas. No.
But a new takesman who I'm growing. He's really growing on me, and I believe he can become a star in the takeosphere sooner rather than later. I'll tell you who that is. We'll get to Marcel Louis Jacques as well in the 4 o'clock hour. He stops by in about a half an hour or so, covering the Miami Dolphins for ESPN and stopping by the Sports Bar. We have time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
HD2 Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
3 players are questionable for the Buffalo Bills: Amari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Curtis Samuel. Reggie Gilliam has been ruled out for the game against the Dolphins. Head coach Sean McDermott says in this game, as always, protecting the football is key.
They've got some really long players on the defensive side with, long arms and reach, and so we've got to be extra aware of protecting the ball and really just our process, play in and play out, and that's just us really trying to get better every week.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, Dolphins reporter for ESPN.com. He will join us later this hour. It's a 1-2 for the Amerks this weekend in Utica. Tonight, Don Stevens on the call beginning at 7. Sabres hockey tonight on 96.5 WCMF. Buffalo hosting the Islanders at 7. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Bills, Dolphins, 1 o'clock live Sunday here.
I'm focused on the challenge in front of us this weekend. Can't wait to play in front of our fans. So we've got to have a really good practice today, and we've got to get ourselves ready to go for Sunday to play our best football.
How is that Dolphins defense going to stop this Bills offense? The Dolphins defense, they're banged up. They are very injured. I don't know what I'm missing here, because I think this, and I predicted like a 40-12 game.
Mike Danger.
They're going to win. They're going to blow them out. 35-17 Bills.
Oh, my God. 35 points.
Gene Battaglia.
The Dolphins-Bills line. They're like, wait a second here. This is a team the Bills beat by 21. The Bills are coming off an identical 31-10 victory last week. In Miami, they haven't done anything here. So what am I missing here? Is this a trappish game for Buffalo?
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Yeah, I see that one of the Sports Bar OG regulars, Dr. Russ.
Oh.
He's on board with the Nerds Gummy Clusters. He found a couple in his kids' candy bags from yesterday. Knows what's up. He always knows what's up.
Gosh, Doctor, I haven't seen. He was out with us the night where Trubisky gets drafted. And
Never
the Bears,
forget it.
Bears traded up 1. And
Never forget it.
So you were seeing red at that point.
Yeah, it's almost like I knew it was a bad pick, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like I knew, there are better options. This is not it. Was not happy that night. No. He witnessed me at my worst as a Bears fan. I was not pleased. And furthermore, you were there when they drafted Justin Fields. I was not happy about that pick either. I was like, ugh.
You were just kind of nodding.
Didn't feel that way about Caleb Williams. Haven't felt that way about Caleb Williams yet.
But see if they screw it up.
Well, we'll see. The problem is it won't be Caleb's fault. It'll be the coaches that have to fall on the sword, and then you start over and the cycle begins all over again. Well, that's neither here nor there, and that's certainly down the road. We've got a game to look forward to here in Orchard Park coming up on Sunday. The Dolphins are coming into town. They haven't won a regulation game in Buffalo since 2011. We talked yesterday with Fatesy about the last time they won was that Rex Ryan debacle, right?
Yeah.
I really don't know how this Dolphins team is going to come into Buffalo and get over on the Bills the way things have been going for both teams here. I know that we talk about spots and we look at the line and we wonder, what's this all about? Why? Yesterday it was easy to say, it was easy to look at the Jets and the Texans and be like, yeah, the Jets can win that game. They're at home. The Texans are banged up. They're not playing their best
short
football.
Week. They're the ones traveling, yeah.
Right. And they get over. And an unbelievable catch by Garrett Wilson that we haven't talked about yet, but also an incredibly boneheaded play by Corley that we haven't talked about yet either. I mean, I think the Jets, the talk of the Jets now somehow being no, stop it. You're not a good team. And I don't think the Dolphins are a good team either. That's why I'm going Bills 35-17.
No, I think this is going to be way closer. I think that Vegas is onto something, and maybe it's just a late touchdown that prevents the Bills from covering in this game. But I have the Bills, which they normally don't do, Danger. Usually it's, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got upset, or they take in an inferior opponent, which the Dolphins are, and then knock them to the moon. I see this being the exception here, 27-24. Buffalo in a game where we're wondering what the heck was that. Did we not forget, like, the Titans and the Jets, and a lot of these games this year, the Bills have had these static starts, using that track phrase. I mean, I don't know if they figured it out. Seattle was just kind of a mess last week. So I'm not saying this is going to be an upset, but I don't think we're all going to be comfortable. And we'll come back on Monday and sure enough have things to complain about.
Well, I think we get the feeling that the vibes at minimum on Sunday are going to be immaculate. We've got nice weather in the forecast. By the way, we stole Mr. Brightside from the University of Michigan, right? I mean, like, that's become our thing now in the NFL, and it's something that everybody looks forward to, and it's sticking, and I think it's going to continue to stick. So, like, that's now a thing, but it's a fun thing, and let's just admit that it was something that Michigan has been doing for a while that we kind of picked up on.
I think because the Bills players kind of took to it and the fan base.
Yeah,
I'm
it
late
was
to the
fun.
party. How this kind of
it was fun. It was they played it and it was during a timeout, and the guys are in the huddle and they're basically doing a performance on the field, and they're really, really into it, and therefore the fans get really, really into it, and now it's just become a thing, and I think it will continue to be a thing in Orchard Park, which I'm fine with, just as long as we're not claiming it as like, oh, yeah, this was us. No, Michigan's been doing this for a while, and it's fun. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but it adds to the atmosphere. It adds to the good vibes and everything that we'll be feeling on Sunday.
But there's somebody in the Buffalo media that was finger waving like, no, this isn't real music. I host a radio show, and like stop. You're the fun police. Let people have fun, okay? The thing about music is...
This isn't music? Is that his quote? This isn't music?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know who you're talking about. His thing was, this isn't music?
Yeah.
It very much, it's not your favorite music, but it is certainly music. It isn't music.
Oh.
Okay. Tell me what music is then, because last I checked, that's a song, and that song is music. It's fine, and it's fun. But you're right, that guy is the fun police.
The fun police. Tell you something fun here. Well, normally this isn't. Normally we make fun of this because I think it's so overdone. The tribute video. We make fun of it in the sports bar quite often, and for good reason. Welcome back to Barclays, Kevin Durant, for not doing anything here. Thank you, Sam Reinhart. Those come to the top of my countless examples. But this Sunday, I want to see what the Bills do here, and they will do something. For the first time in the McDermott era, we get a core guy coming back in a different uniform. Jordan Poyer, now a Miami Dolphin. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. They were one of the best tandems in the league. It was a lot of fun watching those two. Poyer was a warrior. How many would do this, Danger? Doctors, this is the story I will always go back to. Doctors not allowing him to fly to a game because he's got a punctured lung. So what does he do? He goes by van halfway across the country, helps the Bills win in Kansas City. Dude is a warrior. Today, he is nowhere the player that he once was, but I predict this is going to be a really cool moment when the Bills fan base will let Poyer know how much he was appreciated.
I agree. I think it will be a cool moment. And I think like I've been saying, I think the vibes are going to be fantastic on Sunday. And if they do a tribute video or a thank you video for Jordan Poyer, can they include the highlight of him taking a bad angle earlier this year on Jordan Cook as part of the thank you video?
Oh, they can't do that.
I think they should. I would like them to do that. That's the kicker. At the end of the video, it's all Bills footage, and then there's one clip of him taking a really bad angle on James Cook, and James Cook scoring against his new team in Miami.
Wasn't he called for also in that game a 15-yard penalty for a late hit? Like, you could include that.
Jordan Poyer absolutely helping the Bills win games in 2024, even though he's not on the team. Thank you, Jordan.
Make the pictures of scenes from Fisher. Like, wait a second, there's his agent on the sideline.
Yeah.
Rosenhaus.
Right, yeah. I think you have to include that in any tribute video. Include the play that he didn't make against the Bills.
Stuff.
Yeah, earlier this year with a thank you, Jordan. And I think the fans will appreciate that. It's going to be a fun afternoon. We'll have the action for you here on the Fan Rochester. Our pregame coverage starts at 9, kickoff just after 1 o'clock. Now, Gino, I'd like to introduce a new player in the takeosphere. And he's recently, I don't know if he officially retired, but I think he did. Can I get a verdict on Cam Newton?
Ooh, did he retire? I don't think he did.
He's doing a lot of media. A lot. He's got his own show, his own podcast, like most of them do. And for as critical as we've been of Cam Newton through the years, and let's face it, he's said some things that are just, When you hear, you're like, what is he talking about?
You know, we're only going to get better. You know, he's taken that leadership role, grabbed it by the horn, and told everybody in that position room, this is what we got to do. These are our expectations. Nobody's even, giving us an opportunity.
Stop.
You know, yeah, we just lost a great player, but
Stop.
nevertheless, the Titanic still has to go.
Ooh.
Yeah, there was another one where. Yeah, there was a female reporter.
Yeah.
And he talked down to her.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no.
Right.
No.
But at the same time, out of the other side of your mouth, you'll hear people say how generous he was always with the Carolina community, how he always gave back to Charlotte, how he always, held food drives and worked with those less fortunate. So all indications have always been Cam Newton's probably a good guy, maybe not the smartest guy.
No, my favorite Cam Newton story was he, in college, stole a laptop, but because he wrote his name on the outside of it, like he really thought that nobody would be able to trace the stolen laptop when you logged on to it, just like he wrote Cam Newton on it. No, that's not yours, dude.
You're right. I mean, saying that the Titanic needs to go really is all you need to know about Cam Newton. He might not be the brightest bulb on the tree, but overall, I think we get the sense pretty decent guy, at least a charitable guy. Well, now now that he's kind of free of his playing days and he doesn't have to really worry about how the media judges him because he's now part of the media. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been impressed with what he's bringing to the table as a takesman. And today on First Take, hearing him discuss the benching of Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson was really, really impressive. He was it was an unfiltered, it was a vulnerable take. And it's essentially that this is something that Richardson's going to have to carry with him, whether he likes it or not. And he shared the story of him not diving for the ball in the Super Bowl. And in sharing that I can't go anywhere or post anything on any platform without somebody telling me that I didn't dive for that ball. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have tore every ligament in my body to dive for that football to prevent it from happening. You learn from those mistakes. He may never be able to shed the image of him tapping out, but you learn from that mistake. And maybe some time in, time out is what Richardson needs to learn from that mistake. But Cam Newton can be every bit as good as a takesman as Shannon Sharpe has been in a debate setting. I'm looking forward to seeing more Cam Newton in the space.
Yeah, it's always a turnover there in the space there. I thought you were going to say Fitzpatrick.
Oh, did he ever?
Oh.
Did he ever put one on Belichick? If you missed it. Fitzy absolutely shattered the backboard on Belichick and his girlfriend. She posted the pictures from Halloween, and she's wearing Belichick's Giants getup. It's a sexy costume. Fitzpatrick quotes it, saying, "Just to think, you hopeless romantics, you could be 42 years old right now, and the love of your life may not even be born yet."
Actually, it's 48.
It was a 48?
48, yeah.
Did Fitzy say 48 or 42?
He said 48.
Okay, I misquoted the quote tweet. I apologize. 48. You could be a hopeless romantic, 48 years old, and the love of your life may not even be born yet. Whoa! That's good. If that was audible, I would say take of the year material. An absolute dunk on Belichick. Fitzy, not hold him back. So, yeah, Fitzy's good. Cam Newton has been really good. I've really enjoyed what Cam Newton has put out there. Once you get past the flash and the crazy outfits, what he has to say, because of his time on the field being so recent, it's relevant and it's unique. It's unfiltered. It's vulnerable. It's pretty good. And I hope we get to hear more of it here in the future. He definitely has a future in that space if it's offered to him. ESPN should honestly just give him a piece of a show or get him on a show because he's good. We're going to talk to Marcel Louis-Jacques. Speaking of ESPN, my goodness. I mean, I feel like every time we look up at our monitor here in the studio, Marcel's back on Around the Horn. So proud of our guy. We used to cover the Buffalo Bills for ESPN and moved to the 305, covering the Miami Dolphins now.
That is going to be a fun conversation we're going to have with Marcel in just a little bit here, as not only for this season, but like for the Dolphins moving forward here. I mean, I remember that Monday coming back in. It wasn't a Monday, forgive me. It was a Friday after the Bills won that game down in Miami. And the vibe from Bills fans were, yeah, that was great. They won, but we all didn't feel good. We thought for a little bit that was the end of Tua's career. And then we thought about it, and then you realize, no, once he gets cleared, he's going to want to keep going here, which happened exactly. So should we feel conflicted watching Tua Tagovailoa on the field?
I want to feel something, but I really have a hard time feeling sympathetic because, he has options, and he's not wearing the Guardian cap, and he's going to choose to go out there, and I don't know how heroic he is if, when it's all said and done, he's of no use to his family and his quality of life is mush because he wanted to go out there and continue to play. I'm worried about him, and I hate to see it happen. I wonder what Marcel's take on all of this is. And obviously he's back on the field, and we'll see him come Sunday. But the Dolphins are compelling coming into this matchup, and the Vegas line is a little bit compelling as well, knowing that the Bills have been the better team through the course of the season. The Bills, the home team, and yet only favored by, what is the line at now? 6?
6.
Did it move down at all?
Yeah.
So, I guess my biggest question for Marcel is this Dolphins team coming in, are they desperate or are they defeated? And if it's a desperate Dolphins team, then the -6 makes sense to me. I feel like they're more of a defeated Dolphins team coming in, and that they really want no business in Buffalo this weekend. But the slow starts have been a thing. It's been a crazy week, right?
Before we get to Marcel here, Danger, you're a fan of L.A. I think you and I both like the city of L.A.
L.A.
Yeah. It's
have you ever had tacos in L.A.? Because the tacos in L.A. are just fantastic. You have to go. You think you have tacos in Rochester, but you have to have a taco in L.A.
I like Santa Monica. I like Pasadena.
You like going for hikes? Because you've never had a hike unless you've hiked in L.A.
Downtown L.A. there's nothing. Like you drive through downtown L.A., it's like, It's not exactly Rochester, mind you, but it's where they had the parade today. 150,000. Shohei Ohtani on one of these double-decker buses with his dog. So
150,000 times more people were at this parade than at the Rams Super Bowl parade. Good for the Dodgers. Oh, you think you have a nice parade? You haven't had a parade until you've had a parade in L.A.
Like if you had to rank the teams in L.A. right now, it's Lakers by a wide margin, and then Dodgers too?
Yeah, that feels about right. USC has a ways to go. UCLA is kind of an afterthought now. We have not mentioned the Rams. We have not mentioned the Chargers.
No, not really an NFL town.
No. Well, good for the Dodgers. Nice celebration. Nice way to kick off the weekend in L.A. Can't say L.A. without the vocal fry. Got to have the vocal fry. Marcel Louis-Jacques covering the Dolphins for ESPN. Stopping by the sports bar next, and we'll get his preview of Sunday's matchup in Orchard Park.
You're listening. Why settle for the silence of your living room when you can have the thrill of sports talk? Ask your smart speaker to play 95.7 The Fan and turn your home into a sports arena. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
3 players are questionable for the Buffalo Bills: Amari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Curtis Samuel. Fullback Reggie Gilliam has already been ruled out. Sean McDermott, not really concerned about the trade deadline.
I'm really not focused on that whatsoever. Focused on the challenge in front of us this weekend. Can't wait to play in front of our fans. That's a job for Brandon and his staff. And if something comes up, then he'll let me know. But right now our focus is solely on this weekend's game.
Bills and Dolphins Sunday. Our pregame coverage will begin at 9 o'clock. We will talk to our old friend Marcel Louis-Jacques, ESPN.com. Marcel joining us next here in the Sports Bar. First at 2 for the Rochester Americans begins tonight in Utica. Don Stevens will have the call beginning at 7. The Sabres hosting the Islanders. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. Gene Battaglia, The Fan Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Look at our guy. I feel like you can't turn on ESPN and not see Marcel Louis-Jacques representing, covering the Miami Dolphins for ESPN. Man, it's great to have you on with us, Marcel. Thanks for making time. We know how busy your schedule is, and let's face it, you're covering a team that probably is a little bit more rich in drama, theatrics, and headlines than what you had here in Western New York. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, just a bit, man, just a bit. But of course, man, I had to carve out some time for y'all. It is no issue whatsoever. Thanks for having me on again.
Marcel, the gap between these two teams, the Bills and Dolphins, it came down to the last game, literally, in the NFL regular season, and you're figuring, boy, this is going to be a lot closer. What are the issues beyond Tua Tagovailoa and the injury? And we'll get into all that surrounding Tua there, but what are the issues surrounding the Dolphins that have set this team back, would you say?
Well, I mean, it really, you have to, of course, like you said, start with the quarterback position. Once upon a time in training camp, it did seem like Skylar Thompson was an adequate backup. It has become pretty clear that was not the move. That was not the case. And this offense struggled. And without him, Thompson obviously went down that first game. Tyler Huntley couldn't get it going. Tim Boyle in spurts couldn't get it going. And kind of the rest of the team has more or less atrophied from there. But with Tua back, the issue of number 3 receiver is still very, it's still prevalent. That was an area that they tried pretty hard to remedy this offseason, signing Jonnu Smith, signing Odell Beckham Jr. And, while Jonnu has started to come on as of late, the Odell signing still really hasn't paid off. We're still waiting to see Odell pop. And, the defense has been kind of hanging on by a thread here. But when you're only getting about 10, 11 points a game of support from your offense, you can only do so much. They're the second best, I think maybe third best now, defense in the NFL in terms of third down conversion rate. But, then again, that by itself is not enough to buoy an entire unit. So there's issues all across the board. And now, of course, as is seemingly always the issue at this point in the season, they're starting to get hit hard by injuries. Zach Sealer's not going to play on Sunday. Javon Holland is doubtful to play. Kader Kohu's not going to play. Those are 3 pretty critical defensive starters that they're going to be without here.
Marcel, I want to ask you about the job you think Mike McDaniel has done through all the adversities of this season. But coming into this game, I know a lot of people are saying that the Bills should be wary of Miami, that they're going to be a desperate team coming into Orchard Park. And my take on that is, are they desperate or are they defeated? Because I could make the argument that coming in here, they might be just as defeated, if not more defeated, than they are desperate. Which version of the Dolphins do you think we get on Sunday?
I think for now we see desperate. Obviously, it's going to take some sort of miracle to come back and win the AFC East. But, I mean, the Bills last year were down, 5 games, and came back and managed to win it. And that was a lot later point in the season. So it's still possible, but it is basically impossible if you lose the season series already. If you get that sweep and Buffalo has that tiebreaker and a 4.5, 5-game lead over you, it's pretty over. So, I think for right now, we still see desperation. I don't know if defeated shows up after this if they lose, but for now, I think you're going to see a Dolphins team that's got a sense of urgency about it.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, our guest here. So go back to week 2. Bills win that one 31-10, and we come back on the air Friday, Marcel, and it didn't feel really like a victory Friday, if you will, because a lot of people didn't like seeing Tua get hurt, and we're just kind of concerned about him as an individual. But then you realize, he is actually going to go through the whole protocol. He is going to come and try back. How has Tua's return, knowing that a lot of us are kind of conflicted, how has that been received there by the Dolphin fan base, would you say?
I think it's been pretty split. A lot of people, and teammates included, saying, hey, this is a grown man making a decision about himself, his own body, his own career. I think they want people to leave it at that. Tua has, you could tell it's a sensitive subject. You can tell that he gets a little testy when it's brought up. He hates that he's become, the face of concussions in the NFL. He hates the Tua rule. He hated it back then. Doesn't like it being still discussed. Doesn't appreciate. I guess he appreciates the concern, but doesn't necessarily think it's warranted, I guess, let's say. And from the Dolphins' perspective, they were ultra focused on obviously getting him healthy. And it's kind of hard when it's a concussion, right? Because it's not like, you can just rehab your knee, or you can, rehab your ankle or shoulder. Like, really all you can do in this situation is rest. So that's exactly what he did. He rested, he waited, he watched as this team, struggled without him. That was pretty frustrating. But I think he realizes, and the Dolphins, the franchise realizes, he's not necessarily, it's not that he's more at risk for a concussion. It's more concerning that he put himself in a position to be hurt in the first place. That he knew better than to go head first and initiating contact to finish a run. That's something that they've worked on over the past year. He did a pretty good job last year, if I might say, of protecting himself and making sure, that his head didn't hit the ground. That jiu-jitsu regimen, I think, deserves a little more credit than it got ridicule, considering the ridicule it got last year. But it worked. So I don't think this is an area where they see themselves as having like this frazzled quarterback, as much as like, hey man, you need to just know when to say when.
So do you think, Marcel, that the team, for a league that preaches player safety the way they do, and I think many of us as fans, we just kind of roll our eyes, right? We think, okay, yeah, you're saying it, but you're not really doing it other than what you're showing us in a 30-second promo during a game on TV. But, could this have been maybe a little bit more well-received if he considered the Guardian Cap, or if they enforced the Guardian Cap on him? I know that you get into player union issues with that as well, but he was pretty adamant about never even giving that a second thought.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's been probably the most popular criticism levied his way. Research-wise, the Guardian Cap is not necessarily proven to work. I know, it's an additive, so you would think, okay, it can't help, or it can't technically hurt, right? Like it's an extra layer of padding, but it is, scientifically, the lab research might show that it can be incrementally helpful, but the on-field research showed essentially no difference. And so from Tua's perspective, this is something new that I would have to get used to. It adds a little bit more weight. I've talked to Chris Nowinski, from the Concussion Legacy Foundation. He said that it adds more weight. It actually increases the likelihood of his head hitting the ground, ironically enough. And not to mention, then there's the psychological aspect, right, where you have to think, okay, I'm not necessarily planning to be hurt, but it's one more thing I'm thinking about. It's like, if you add a whole bunch of pads on when you're learning how to skateboard, you're kind of doing so with not the expectation of failure, but the realization that failure is possible. So I think there's a psychological aspect to it as well, that, it would have hurt, or it would have helped everybody else if he had explained that himself. But that is my take on it, that the Guardian Cap doesn't actually work. He wears the safest rated helmet for his specific position. that is meant to protect against, hits that a quarterback could take. I think the Guardian Cap is helpful for maybe a lineman or a position that repeatedly takes hits to the head and micro impacts to the head. But in terms of a quarterback in that position, it's not necessarily helpful. So and I think, again, it would have helped if he had said that himself, so that, me and my coworkers didn't have to try to make sense of it. But that's my take on it based on the research I've done, based on the people I've spoken with. The gist of it is the Guardian Cap is not necessarily as helpful as the NFL has kind of made it seem.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, our guest here, former Buffalo Bills reporter for ESPN, going down, covering the Dolphins now, and following you is Jordan Poyer. And Marcel, I'm really curious because I think sometimes the tribute video can be, not necessary, but I think this will be actually a cool moment if it's done correctly, where the Bills fan base, I'm sure, is going to show their appreciation. Tell us what it's been like here for Jordan, because we haven't watched as much Dolphin football as you, certainly, but from what we saw in week 2, it didn't look all that good there for the former Buffalo Bill.
No, it's been a tough start. It's been a tough start to the season, and not just for him individually, just obviously for the team as a whole. This isn't what he signed up for. Nobody signs up to go 2-6, but there are some, there are some places you can sign with, some teams you can sign with, where you kind of know, okay, like, we're probably not contending for a championship here. Like, what you've got. The expectation signing in Miami was to compete for a Super Bowl. So, anything that falls short of that obviously is a disappointment. I think he deserves, though, in that return to Buffalo, he deserves as long of a tribute video as the Bills media department, or not media department, but game ops department can muster up, because of what he meant to that city, what he meant to that team, what he meant for the trajectory of that franchise, really. Him, Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, all these guys who have left Buffalo in one way or another, they deserve all of that. They deserve all of that recognition. So hopefully he gets it. I know he wants to win. I know he's looking forward to either picking off Josh Allen, or in his mind, hopefully even hitting Josh Allen. We'll see. There's not a whole lot of players who've gotten an open shot on Josh over the past few years. So I don't know if it's going to happen necessarily, but I know that he's looking forward to the challenge.
Marcel, I look around the NFL and I see teams much like the Dolphins that have struggled with situations at quarterback, and they've had their starter miss time, miss games. They've made adjustments. They've brought in quarterbacks from the outside. In the case of Green Bay, they've won games with Malik Willis, and Matt LaFleur is somebody who, like Mike McDaniel, is considered this offensive guru. So is the drop-off in talent from, say, a Malik Willis to a Skylar Thompson or a Tyler Huntley that steep, where McDaniel can't get some of those wins that you had without Tua on the field? Put a number or a grade on the job you think McDaniel has done through the adversities of this season.
Oh man, I think I'm probably going to have to go somewhere in the C range, because you see it with Malik Willis. The Packers run a different offense when Malik Willis is in the game. They run the ball something like 70% of the time, even including with Malik Willis, who that's his specialty, right? Like, that's what he's good at. That is what he's known for. Tyler Huntley is not known to make quick decisions and be accurate with the ball in that short to intermediate range like Tua is. So to run a similar offense with him and expect similar results, I think is a little crazy. So I was a little surprised that they didn't run more RPO, more zone read, more just design quarterback runs. And I don't know if that's maybe an effort to make sure Huntley didn't get hurt, make sure they didn't lose another quarterback. But ironically, he did end up getting hurt. He is on injured reserve. He probably won't be seen again for the rest of the season. So I think you could have maybe switched things up. Hindsight's obviously 2020. With Skylar Thompson, you'd like to think like, hey man, this is year 3. This is your 3rd year in the system. It's all you know. Like, I know you're not Tua, but we would expect you to make quicker decisions, and he didn't. It was the same issues that we saw from him as a 7th round rookie a couple years ago. Running around Ralph Wilson Stadium trying to trying to beat the Bills in a playoff game, but couldn't pull the trigger in certain situations. That's the same thing we saw in his limited action against the Seahawks this year. So it's, I'm not going to sit here and act like they have the best backup quarterback situation in the NFL. And by all means, they tried to go get a name that I thought made perfect sense, which is C.J. Beathard, who was he was one of the backups in San Francisco when McDaniel was there. He knows that offense. He can run it. He showed that he could run it well in a pinch. They did reach out to him. He just wasn't healthy. He'd been released by the Jaguars with the injury settlement at the beginning of the season, and he just wasn't ready. He's on the roster now, but he wasn't ready back when they needed him a month ago. So, yeah, I'm not going to act like they had the best backup quarterback situation in the world, but I don't think that they put together an offensive game plan that was conducive to success based on the talent they had at their disposal.
Marcel, if the Dolphins don't come out on top at 2-7, it's really difficult. Question about the trade deadline. Would you expect the Dolphins to be sellers here, perhaps? If so, who might be some of those players that teams will come calling on?
Yeah, I think somebody will probably end up. I see Bills fans clamoring for it. Somebody will probably come calling for Calais Campbell. This is a situation, again, where he signed with the expectation of competing for a Super Bowl, and that seems pretty distant, especially, of course, if they lose on Sunday and start 2-6. That's a tough hole to climb out of. If he were healthy, I would say a guy like Bradley Chubb, but unfortunately, I don't think anybody is trading for Bradley Chubb right now. That's the most, maybe that's their best asset who they would be willing to trade, or I guess wouldn't cry themselves to sleep if they traded. Not to say they didn't like Bradley, of course, and especially not after trading a first-round pick for him a couple of years ago and signing him to a huge contract. But that's just, they drafted Chop Robinson. If they re-sign Jalen Phillips, they're obviously going to get him at a discount considering his torn Achilles and ACL in back-to-back years. They can clear a lot of space by by trading Bradley Chubb, but he's not healthy, so that's not going to happen. The name that I know everybody is gonna look at is Tyreek Hill. That is, their most valuable realistic trade target right now. Or trade asset right now. I just don't see it. It would turn Jalen Waddle back into 1A, but like the gap after Waddle, if Tyreek is not available, is terrifying. If you're a Dolphins fan, it is terrifying. Their next leading receiver this year, guys, is D. Eskridge, who has 2 catches for 36 yards. That is the third leading wide receiver right now. Man. They're getting River Craycraft back, hopefully this week, if not next week. He's going to immediately become wide receiver 3, and it's not really even been a competition. Like I said, we're still waiting for the Odell Beckham experiment to pop. We're still waiting for the returns on that, to see the returns on that. So it would be a scary world without Tyreek Hill. I think they could probably get either they could get a first or second for him. He's still that good, but I don't think it happens. I think they see this year as kind of an anomaly where Tua was hurt. It got them in a hole that they couldn't dig themselves out of. I don't think they see it as, indicative of their talent as a whole.
What's happened to Tyreek this year, Marcel? I mean, we remember how the year started for him with the off-field stuff, and then you have an on-field product here with Tyreek Hill, who's on pace to have a season where he's got less than 1,000 receiving yards. He just, is it injuries? Is there off-field stuff that's weighing heavily on his mind that's taking away from the focus? Is it simply the quarterback situation? What has been plaguing Tyreek Hill's game so far this year?
I think people would be shocked to realize or to learn that he is a difficult player to throw the ball to, and this has nothing to do with his personality, his attitude, his work ethic. None of that. When he practices, he's the hardest working player on the team, to the point where McDaniel says they have to hold him back because he does too much at practice and they don't want him to wear himself out. It's none of that. It's not the diva behavior. It's not the troll behavior. It's simply that he's a 5'9", extremely freaking fast guy. Yeah. Who it's hard to hit that window if you're not used to hitting that window. Guys like Mahomes and Tua are 2 of the most accurate passers in the NFL. with any criticism you have about Tua, the one thing you cannot hold against him is that he is not accurate with the ball in that short to intermediate part of the field. Statistically, he is accurate with the deep ball as well, but I don't want to open that can of worms. He is accurate in that short to intermediate, 0 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. He can hit those windows consistently, but if you're not used to throwing to 5'9" players, small window players with 4.2, 4.3 speed, that's a hard thing to get used to in real time. And especially if you're not used to seeing it, it's a hard trigger to pull. Like, these windows are already closer. They're small enough. They're tight enough. Like, if you're hesitant at all, then you're not going to let that thing go. It's not as easy as, let's say, you step into a situation with Justin Jefferson, right? We've seen about a half dozen backup caliber quarterbacks throw him the ball over his career, or DeAndre Hopkins back in the day in Houston, where this is a big target. It's a 6'1", maybe 6'2" receiver. Like, he's good speed, but not blazing 4.2 40-yard dash speed. Like, it's an easier window to hit. It's a bigger target to hit. It's easier to just funnel targets to that person. So I think it's just harder to throw the ball to the Dolphins receivers than you would expect. And I think that since wide receiver 3, as I've been saying, is still a pretty prevalent concern, I think you go into the offseason and you look for a bigger bodied receiver. And that's tough, because I think the big catch radius receiver is sort of antiquated in the NFL. You still have to find somebody who can separate, but this isn't more about the window or the radius as it is just the overall size. Like, you have to add a little bit of size and a safety valve to this room, or, if a situation occurs where Tua has to miss time, you're going to struggle again.
Marcel, I'm happy to report to you 58 degrees and sun, the forecast on Sunday. I don't know if 58's too cool for you now, but when we look at this matchup here, though,
I think he's insulting you. I think he's calling you soft, Marcel.
No, I am not.
Like, he can't handle 58 degrees?
I miss the crisp weather so much. And I can feel the eyes rolling as I say this, but it's just 70 degrees always gets, it's like too much of a good thing, I guess. Like, I miss walking outside in the morning and some cool air hits my face, or I miss being able to throw a hoodie on comfortably or a jacket on and know that I'm not pushing it because it's 68 degrees, 71 degrees, and I wanted to get a fit off. I would love to wear a jacket again. The cold honestly never bothered me, man. That, contrary to popular belief, the cold never bothered me because you can dress for it. You can dress for it. And I love winter and fall fashion, so you can dress for it. It's the snow and the length of the snow that bothered me. I got friends going to the beach, going to the pool, doing this and that outside, and I'm scraping snow off my car in the middle of May. Yeah. And I was like, hey, man, enough is enough. This is ridiculous.
Marcel,
this is ridiculous.
Well, we have you, and we appreciate you giving us the time that you're giving us to talk about the game on Sunday. But, man, talk a little bit about yourself here. I mean, like I said at the beginning, we're seeing you on ESPN more often. It sounds like it looks like they're giving you a lot more opportunities to spread your wings. And I mean, I just got to imagine that this move that you've made, it furthered your career in so many ways. And I don't know, I'm speaking for Gene here. I know we're immensely proud to kind of claim you as one of our guys because you coming to Buffalo before you went onto the bigger platform.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I'd always said that the move to Miami was a career move. There are some opportunities here that I don't think I would have gotten in Buffalo. Maybe at some point I could have gotten my way onto Around the Horn. It really would have been cool to be the first person ever to have Buffalo in the backdrop, or Buffalo in the background, my Dateline, whatever we want to call it. That would have been cool. I would have taken a lot of pride in doing that for the city and the area. That would have been really cool. But the fact of the matter is, it was just things like the F1 race, the Messi coming to play down here in the MLS. There were things that I was given an opportunity to cover that it wouldn't have happened in Buffalo. So the money is the money. It's nice. I'm not ever going to turn it down, but this was about just the opportunities. I don't know how many things I would have been able to do while covering the Bills. And ultimately, man, and nobody's going to like to hear this, but like nationally, people are not as interested in the Bills as, people in Western New York are.
Yeah.
It's not to say that, it's not to say they're not interesting. It's not to say that they should be or shouldn't be, but like nationally speaking, it's hard. The Bills don't capture the same kind of attention in Arizona or in California. And so, consistently, I think it was one of our least viewed pages in our NFL block, which is crazy to me because I was like, everybody should care about this team. I remember when I first got there in 2019, midway through end of training camp, I'm telling everybody in Bristol, like, hey, the Bills are going to make the playoffs this year. The Bills are going to this defense is really good. Like, they're going to make the playoffs. And everybody blew it off. Everybody laughed at me like, okay, man, like, come on, stop it. That's a team that just went 6-10. Josh Allen was still not a known commodity. He was still, the jury was still out on him. That's kind of the Buffalo curse. And, I think deep down Buffalo is okay with that. Western New York is okay with that. Like, there's only a few cities that really can adopt that us against the world mentality. Like, I roll my eyes when like Boston or New York or LA tries to do it. No, it's like a market like Buffalo and Cleveland and Detroit, like, who can really say, it's us against the world, that is just looked down on by so many other people that like they feel like, screw it, man. Who needs an ally? Like, I don't need you to like us. We like us. So like it is what it is. I'm rambling a little bit here, man. But like I do always want it to be clear that I didn't leave. I didn't leave because like I hated Buffalo so much, and like it's crazy to see people who say that he hated Buffalo all along. He hated Western New York. He was fake. Like, no, I didn't, man. Like I love that place. You can ask anybody who knows me. There's not a single person in the freaking media who's not in Buffalo who speaks highly or speaks higher of Western New York than I do. And I challenge people to find somebody, again, who is not Buffalo-based media that speaks higher of that area and that region than I do. I love it to death, man. It's always my favorite road trip. This is always my favorite road trip. I can't wait to be there tomorrow. And, I've got no complaints. And of course, first and foremost, I met my fiance down here. So
nice.
There can be no regret.
Quick, fun follow-up here. Last one, Marcel. When you're on Around the Horn, we take great pride in that. How competitive are you? How competitive does it get on that show?
Oh, man, like, I've walked out of that studio pretty mad sometimes. I'm going to be honest. Like, I walked out of that studio, like, there's another panelist, there are a few panelists that I'll talk to, and, like, we can vent every now and then. But it's like, it's so just unscripted, and it's so, like, there is no rubric. There's no scoring rubric.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just, like, the day. Like, Tony might think something is funny one day, and he might think it's corny and bad point the other. Like, there's no uniformity here. It's just really, like, kind of seat of your pants stuff. So, like, you do have to decide. Like, sometimes I make a point that I think, like, man, this is going to get me all the points in the world, and it doesn't. And then another panelist will make a joke, like that I think is corny, but it hits Tony.
Yeah.
Like it's like that much, got that much soprano or that much Italian influence in it, that it hits a soft spot for him, and he loves it. And like I've been on the other end of that too, where like I feel like I probably won some rounds that I shouldn't have, just because I was funnier that day. But it's fun. Like, but I'm competitive. All of us are. I've definitely had to remind myself, like, hey man, like it's just a game show. Like it's just a game. At the end of the day, like I'm not getting anything extra to do this. Like I'm not, like, it's not in my contract. Like you win 13 games a year or else you're fired. Like it's not like that. So like it is fun at the end of the day. Like sometimes you just make good television. Like there have been days where it's like, I have nothing to add about this. So I'm going to find like the most lighthearted point possible and really lean in. Or I know this is going to lose me points, but I'm not going to win anyways. And I think it's funny and good for the show. I'm just going to go into it. I'm going to dive in and make this joke. So it's taking some getting used to, but it's seriously, it's awesome, man. Like it's so much fun. I'll be back on on Tuesday, and I can't wait.
Well, Marcel, it's great hearing your voice. We're looking forward to seeing you this weekend at the stadium and throughout Buffalo this weekend as well. We're hoping for the best, and we'll get the chance to hopefully to do this again real soon, man. Best of luck, continued success, and thanks for joining us this afternoon, bud.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Marcel.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, ESPN personality covering the Miami Dolphins.
I love that guy.
The best.
And he brings up a point. I'm sure there were people like, oh, you're joining the Dolphins. Like, you understand, though. You're getting a bigger platform.
It's a hard thing for a lot of us to look outward and think that we aren't as big as Miami, or that there aren't as many opportunities as there are in a bigger market or an emerging market. And it's just the reality of the world, man. I mean, can you fault somebody who leaves Rochester to move to Nashville because there's opportunity there?
But I would like to follow up, and we'll never know this. Maybe I'll ask Elena off the record, which really, I guess, would be on the record if I bring it here. But, like, since with Josh Allen, have the Bills grown as compared to other teams on ESPN?
Well, I was going to challenge Marcel on a couple of things. One of them being, you know what, maybe Buffalo isn't viewed the way some of the other markets are viewed or the other teams are viewed, but they haven't won anything. Like, if they win a Super Bowl, I would argue Buffalo is in consideration to become America's team, right? Like, there's nothing about the team to not like except, oh, they're from Buffalo. But you got the quarterback who's a star and a stud. You've got a defense. You've got a good unit of guys that are personalities and characters.
What do you not like about Buffalo from the outside? The fun fan base. Hey, we get a fun weather game.
Right.
You got a fun quarterback.
That's the part I don't get. That's the part I don't get. If you get fatigue because Buffalo's always contending, I understand that. We felt that way about a lot of teams, including the original America's team, right? When the Cowboys were always good, it was like, oh, boy, the Cowboys again.
Well, we're feeling that way with the Chiefs. When the Chiefs broke through, hey, this is fun. And
now it's like, oh, yeah, again? Yeah, it's fatigue.
Yeah, shush, Binkley.
I mean, we should have these problems, right? Like, these are problems we wish we had. There was another thing that Marcel said, and I'll save this for happy hour, but I want to push back on it a little bit because I don't know that I agree with him entirely, and it's about Tyreek Hill. I don't know that Tyreek Hill is right this season, and I know that Marcel made the point about his size and the quarterback play, and the quarterback play I'll listen to, but he's been the same size and the same speed that he's been throughout the NFL. So what is it? What is it about Tyreek this season that has him off to this kind of slow start?
I think it's just this. Well, we'll save it here, but I haven't answered.
All right, we'll get to that and more next. We have time for your calls, 866-4326, as we prepare for Sunday afternoon in Orchard Park. The Dolphins coming in to take on the Buffalo Bills. 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to the Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Players are questionable for the Buffalo Bills game against the Dolphins. Mari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Curtis Samuel. Reggie Gilliam has been ruled out. Head coach Sean McDermott says protecting the football, as always, is key.
They've got some really long players on the defensive side with, long arms and reach. And so we've got to be extra aware of protecting the ball and really just our process, play in and play out. And, that's just us really trying to get better every week.
Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio with the call 1 o'clock. Our pregame coverage Sunday will begin at 9 a.m. It's the first of two for the Emirates this weekend in Utica. Don Stevens will be by at 7 o'clock tonight with the call. Sabres hosting the Islanders. That can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. St. John Fisher football as the Cardinals tomorrow playing at Alfred. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Bills, Dolphins, 1 o'clock live Sunday here.
I'm focused on the challenge in front of us this weekend. Can't wait to play in front of our fans. So we've got to have a really good practice today, and we've got to get ourselves ready to go for Sunday to play our best football.
How is that Dolphins defense going to stop this Bills offense? The Dolphins defense, they're banged up. They are very injured. I don't know what I'm missing here because I think this, and I predicted like a 40-12 game.
Mike Danger.
They're going to win. They're going to blow them out. 35-17 Bills.
Oh, my God. 35 points.
Gene Battaglia.
The Dolphins-Bills line. They're like, wait a second here. This is a team the Bills beat by 21. The Bills are coming off an identical 31-10 victory last week. In Miami, they haven't done anything here. So what am I missing here? Is this a trappish game for Buffalo?
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We welcome you back into the Sports Bar and appreciate you making us part of your Friday afternoon routine as you get ready for another fantastic weekend of sports in the Flower City. We've got Section 5 playoffs getting underway this weekend.
That's right.
St. John Fisher football tomorrow. We got
there are people at Penn State upset about the noon kickoff.
What are they upset about? They get to make the stadium look like their helmet, and everybody should be happy.
They want to tailgate.
They want to tailgate longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, let's worry about what's on the field. Maybe less about the tailgate.
How about you win the game, and then right after, woo!
Yeah, the party afterward would be insane. Yeah. They're going in a little bit cocky. Penn State, confident bunch right now. My brother-in-law's a big Penn State fan.
Right.
I'm calm. He says, I'm calm. This is as calm as I've ever felt. If they can't beat Ohio State this season, they'll never beat them with Franklin as the head coach. This sounds like it's set up, right? It doesn't sound good. No. It doesn't sound good. And we had PJ on with us earlier in the week, PJ Glasser from BetQL. Likes Ohio State in the points.
Monday, we will have our buddy Ryan Hickey on the show.
Hot take Hickey.
Couple reasons. One, he's hosting Sunday night. Two, he's a Colt fan. Which, okay.
Also a Penn State guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah.
Second reason. So, all right, we got plenty to react to with Hot Take Hickey. And maybe, if we're lucky, he'll be on tonight with JR.
I wanted to push back a little bit with Marcel, our guest last hour, Marcel Louis-Jacques from ESPN.
Fantastic.
As always.
Fantastic.
And so glad we had the chance to catch up with him and have him on with us. And if you watch ESPN any amount of time, eventually you're going to see Marcel's mug pop up. He's featured more and more on the network, and man, I just love that, like we claim him as ours. He had a career before he came to Buffalo, but like his time in Buffalo, he was on with us every week. He became part of the Sports Bar family.
Well, it's funny. He went from covering the Panthers for ESPN.com up to Buffalo, then to Miami. Mm-hmm. So every step along the way, like you would think maybe Charlotte. That might be like as far as clicks and everything else. Not really a lot of success there, but happy to have some time with him, and he's coming back. But listen, what he said about Tyreek Hill, I would listen to. First of all, it came up in the context of the trade deadline where Calais Campbell, some of these other players, if the Dolphins lose, yeah, I could see them. No, he said, any rumor you see about Tyreek Hill, hard for me to imagine that Tyreek Hill would be sent somewhere. And part of the reason he said that, Danger, was Well, Tyreek Hill needs a certain quarterback that knows how to hit the 5'9" target. It's not that Tyreek Hill is playing worse, in Marcel's opinion. It's that, hey, the quarterback play isn't what it should be, and that's why.
Yeah, I'll listen to the quarterback play on it, but he went to the size card, like he's 5'9" and he's fast. I'm like, well, he's always been 5'9" and fast, so what's different about this year? And if it's as simple as the quarterback play hasn't been there, then that's it. But you look at what he's pacing for this year, he's going to receive less than 1,000 yards. I mean, it's not a Tyreek Hill type season. He's on pace for a less than 1,000-yard receiving season. Maybe it gets dialed up here down the stretch, but when you are a 2-win team at this point of the season, and this, I tend to believe that Miami is more on the defeated side than the desperate side, and I know that anybody that's a Dolphin fan would probably argue that. And Marcel said that they're going to come in a little bit more desperate. Knowing that this is it, right? Like, it's going to be a hard thing for them to come back if they lose to Buffalo and they lose the season series to Buffalo, especially given what the Jets did in their win last night against Houston. So I just thought, the quarterback play has been terrible, obviously, with no Tua, but you still have this head coach who everybody wanted to say is this whiz kid, this genius offensive mind. Well, if he's a genius offensive mind, why couldn't he get more when Tua went down? Because we've seen other head coaches in the NFL from the same coaching tree get more out of backup quarterbacks than what we've seen out of Mike McDaniel this season.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of any head coach that this is my system and it's going to be that. No, I like the coach that's going to adapt to what talent he has.
Correct.
And when I asked Marcel the question, this is what I would, kind of push back on. Hey, it's week 18. The Bills needed that game. Actually, I could push it a step further. They're losing in the second half. You're ready to finally win the AFC East, and it didn't happen. How did we get from there in January to where we are today beyond the quarterback? And certainly the quarterback is like not having Tua and everything else. That's a big part of it, but there's got to be more to it. And honestly, wouldn't you start with a coach?
I think when you look at the Dolphins, from the head coach, well, from the ownership, really, down to the quarterback and the roster, they aren't right. They just aren't right. The owner wanted Tom Brady. They have Tua. The GM, has mismanaged the situations. Tua has been concussed. He's not well. Tyreek Hill is not. I'm sorry. There's an injury or there's something. Mm-hmm. He's not the same player. He's a year older. He might still have some of that speed, but he's not producing the way you would expect Tyreek Hill to produce. Jalen Waddle's been invisible. You don't have a third wide receiver. Your defense is banged up, and you don't really have a lot of talent there either. They're just top to bottom, and the head coach, I don't know. I mean, he's a weirdo. I try to make sense of what Mike McDaniel is saying now, and it used to be fun and quirky and different, and it's still quirky and different, but it's not fun when you have 2 wins this season. You need to actually show on the field that you are what a lot of people believe you are, which is some kind of offensive genius. I don't see it. I haven't seen it. I'm not worried about the Dolphins on Sunday. I think the Bills have a lot going their way. I think they've got some momentum. I think the way they beat up on Seattle is a precursor to them beating up on another bad to mediocre team on Sunday. I like the Bills to win 35-17.
I just look at Vegas always as the guide, and it's really strange to me that sharp money went on the Miami Dolphins. It may seem like really a nothing, where the line started out 6.5 and it went down to 6. Well, the reason it did that because there was more money actually going in that direction. I just feel danger that for Buffalo in this game, the slow starts have always been a thing. And okay, yeah, you started out really well in Seattle. In fact, that might have been the best since the Jaguar game. But it's been an issue. If you start out slow, it's going to give this opponent a little bit of life. And also, don't discount this. It's going to be a beautiful day, which means it's a beautiful day for the Dolphins here. So when the Dolphins have this reputation of rolling over and that's it, they'll quit. I see them with their season on the line, so to speak, kind of hanging around this game. I still have Buffalo winning, but I don't have them covering 27-24.
Yeah, I'll throw the weather thing right out the window. I mean, of course, the Bills would have an advantage if Miami was coming up here and it was snowing, but it was perfect last year when the Bills beat them by 28. I just don't. I think Sean McDermott has their number. I think Tua knows Buffalo owns him, and Josh Allen owns Miami. I mean, like it's what we don't realize is that we're right now living in the golden age of the Buffalo Bills dynasty of the AFC East. They don't have the championships that the Patriots have, but they are dominating this division in a similar fashion to what the Patriots did for all of those years of their dynasty. And why is that? It's about what the Bills are doing, yes, but it's also about the dysfunction of the teams that are in the division and them just not being able to get over, not being able to figure it out.
To the point where you're so far ahead, you can say, oh, the Jets won last night. Good. Wait, what? No, that was loss number 3 for Houston. That puts Buffalo ahead.
Yes, for seeding.
Yeah, for seeding. And I'm not sure if the Bills are technically the 2 or the 3 because Pittsburgh at 6-2, Buffalo at 6-2, and now Houston dropping to 6-3. So wouldn't it be nice to be a full game up on Houston? And Houston, by the way, looks like they have their issues. Not to digress, that was an ugly game last night. Thankfully, I didn't watch, but my buddy Mike Danger did.
Always do. I'm a degenerate for the NFL. I'll watch it so you don't have to. And that first half was unwatchable. It was some really, really bad football, riddled with errors and poor play, no points. I mean, it was just gross. It was just gross football. But the Jets get over, and now with 3 wins. Oh, watch out. Watch out, because they can win out. Okay, settle down. You're not a good team.
Bills, by conference record, are the 3. That's the tiebreaker. So the Bills right now behind Pittsburgh. But that's where we are. We're not talking about the division. We're talking about, can the Bills be the 2 seed? Can they be the 3? What would it take to be the 1? This is the golden age of Buffalo Bills football. And coming in with the Miami Dolphins, sure, I guess it could happen. Another interesting thing Marcel brought up, and you were the one who asked the question about the Guardian cap, and is it for show?
Well, it's funny. You could ask some people, and they would say, if you want to eliminate concussions from the NFL, let them play without helmets. You won't have any concussions if they're playing the game without helmets. And I know that that's an extreme point of view. Some people would say that, but I get the mindset of that, right? Like with the Guardian cap and you have this added layer of protection, does that make you want to lean on your head a little bit more when you're talking about using it in the course of a game? I mean, if you watched Joe Mixon run last night, I know you didn't, I did. Mm-hmm. I mean, he sure loves to lean in on his runs and finish his runs by leaning with his shoulder. Now, he's not doing that if he's not heavily padded or protected there, right?
Right.
Could you make the same argument about the head? I get what Marcel was saying about the Guardian cap, and if you were to tell me that it doesn't really make a difference or that it's just for show, I would listen to that because I believe that everything the NFL says about player safety is just for show. It's not real. They don't care about player safety. If they cared about player safety, Tua would not be starting for the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. They do not care about player safety. So, yeah, I would listen to the Guardian cap is just for show. Mm-hmm. And that the Guardian cap might actually not enhance your performance, but make it, make it a mental thing where you're thinking about it while you're on the field.
Yeah, I have this extra layer when ultimately don't use your helmet.
Right. I can spear somebody with my helmet because I've got the Guardian cap, or I can take a different angle, or I can lead with my helmet.
Oh, yeah, ultimately, like when these are the most competitive individuals on earth. I'm not kidding you. And we say, Josh, don't do that. And he's been smarter this year. How did Tua get hurt last time? Do we remember? Like, they're down. He's lowering his head into Damar Hamlin?
Right.
It's not like he was sitting back in the pocket and Rousseau hit him blindside.
It wasn't a violent hit. It was a clean hit. It wasn't a violent collision. It was Tua leading with his helmet into the body of Damar Hamlin and suffering another concussion. He is susceptible to concussions. So he has to take extra caution. It was one of the things they brought up this morning when I was on the break room with Duffy, Tommy, Kimmy, and Ryan. Will Tua have over under 15 yards rushing in this game? I said under. That dude ain't running. He's safer in the pocket. He can protect himself in the pocket. It's when he gets out of the pocket that he's at risk. Yeah, he could slide, but Is he going to? I don't know.
They would be crazy to call design run. That's one thing that you'd like. At least you can cross off the board if you're Bobby Babbitt. You don't have to worry about Tua taking off.
I don't think you have to worry about him even if they don't call a design run. Like, where's he going? That guy, he can't be playing recklessly. He can't be playing the way he's played in the past. He has to play with a different filter on now. Like, I'm one bad decision away from my career being over, legitimately over. Because if he suffers another concussion, we haven't talked about this, but if he suffers another concussion and we see the same symptoms when he suffers that concussion, do you think that this is going to go away? It's only going to get louder. Why is he out there?
Dude, I thought that after the 3 in 1 year and then he in week 2, like I thought that was it. And we had that reaction. It was kind of muted, that celebration on that Friday. And then you realize, wait a second, it's actually his choice. He's going through the protocol. Yeah, he's probably going to come back, and sure enough, he's here. And, it's his choice, and it seems to be like this is your life. I just don't
I get that, and look, it's his decision ultimately, sure. You would hope that for the NFL, again, it's all optics. If the NFL really cared about player safety, they would work with the players union and say, get this guy off the field.
I would say this: blame the head coach. Go back to the 100-degree day there where Milano hits him. He's stumbling around like a drunk. You're like, oh my gosh, get him out of there. Oh, he's back in.
That was a back injury.
They went down like, oh, hello,
yeah.
I am Dr. Nick. I am the neurologist for the Miami Dolphins, and Tua is safe to go back into the game.
Right. Yeah, it would be Mike McDaniel is really a character on The Simpsons.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick.
It's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Well, we'll have the action for you come Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock kickoff, and pregame getting underway here on the Fan Rochester at 9 a.m. right after Italian Carousel. Are you going to call in this week?
I think I might because I'm going to Buffalo, and we'll all be kind of up a little. Remember, it's clock weekend here.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. The weekend we complain about.
Don't you miss getting the? I mean, I know my parents have passed a while. I don't know if your parents do this, Gene, but you used to get the reminder, the call, the phone call from mom or dad. Hey, don't forget, set your clock back when you were younger. Hey, don't forget, set your clock back. Like, okay, well, if I forget, what's going to happen? I'm going to be off a little bit for a couple of hours on a Sunday. It'll be okay. I'll be fine.
If you're going to the game, you'll be late.
You know what?
Actually, you're fine though. You'd be
Dude, when I was at the Bears game a few weeks ago, when I was in Chicago, completely forgot that it's a noon kickoff Central Time.
Oh,
almost botched the pregame festivities.
Wow,
almost botched tailgating. Like, kickoff. The guy that I went to the tailgate was, kickoff is at noon. I'm like, oh, noon. Damn, I'm in Central. I forgot. Almost forgot. Didn't, almost did. So luckily, I don't have my parents, but I have my buddy telling me, it's a noon kickoff. Oh yeah, that's right. We're in Central Time Zone. Okay, good. It'll be a great day, and hopefully, we're talking about a Bills win come Monday here in the Sports Bar. I know on Monday, fresh from his Hall of Fame induction, the New York State Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer Mike Catalana from 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus will stop by to break it down.
Do we call him the icon or?
He's a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, man. Somebody we should all aspire to be. And then you mentioned it earlier, Hot Take Hickey, Ryan Hickey from the Infinity Sports Network. We'll have plenty of takes from him. With the Colts on Sunday. Some may be bad. With the Colts on Sunday, with Penn State tomorrow. And, of course, we'll talk plenty of NFL and Buffalo Bills with Hickey when he joins us 4:25 on Monday afternoon. Let's get to a round of shots next on The Fan.
Yeah, as they're having the parade in L.A. today, we've got updates. Funny how the news starts to come out right as the season ends. News about the A's Stadium in Vegas. Also news about what St. Pete is doing there to keep the Rays around. We've got a college football Saturday that's going to start off big early. We'll set you up for your best viewing habits here. NBA, and we'll also we'll go over what might have been the best or the worst, I guess, of Halloween on Nantucket.
All right. Ooh, yes. We're exploring Nantucket during a round of shots. Yes, very good. Last call as well on the way at 866-4326. You can have the final word, 585-866-4FAN. In fact, Call that number now if you'd like a free pair of tickets to see Dweezil Zappa, who's coming to the Kodak Center April 15th, 2025. Tickets are on sale now. They went on sale this morning at 10 a.m. Ticketmaster.com, LiveNation.com. Dweezil Zappa at Kodak Center April 15th, and a free pair of tickets for you now if you're caller 5 at 585-866 4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and update.
3 players to keep an eye on for the Buffalo Bills as we approach Sunday here. They are all questionable. Amari Cooper, Christian Benford, and Curtis Samuel. Reggie Gilliam has already been ruled out. Head coach Sean McDermott, he's not really concerned about the trade deadline.
I'm really not focused on that whatsoever. Focused on the challenge in front of us this weekend. Can't wait to play in front of our fans. That's a job for Brandon and his staff. And if something comes up, then he'll let me know. But right now our focus is solely on this weekend's game.
Pre-game coverage Sunday begins at 9 a.m. with a kickoff at 1 here on The Fan. 1st at 2 for the Amerks this weekend in Utica. Don Stevens will be by at 7 with the call tonight. Sabres hosting the Islanders. Sabres hockey being heard on 96.5 WCMF. St. John Fisher football tomorrow. The Cardinals playing at Alfred. Gene Battaglia on the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Epic victories, heartbreaking defeats. No matter your team, no matter your game, we talk sports. The Fan, Rochester.
You're back in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Happy hour continues. It's time for a round of shots.
It's the biggest game in years, can we say, at Happy Valley. Number 3, Penn State hosting number 4, Ohio State. That's going to begin your college football Saturday at noon on Fox. Boy, what a world we live in. Normally that would be your prime time game. No, let's get that one going. Also at noon, Syracuse football. They're back home taking on Virginia Tech. That's on the CW. Games in the late afternoon window tomorrow conclude the annual Georgia-Florida game that's taking place in Jacksonville, 3:30 on ABC. Same time, number 1 Oregon playing at Michigan on CBS. Your primetime matchups, quite honestly, not as good tomorrow. NBC has Wisconsin, Iowa at 7:30.
I'm a little nervous about Penn State.
Well, you and every Penn State fan should be saying that.
No, I'm nervous because my brother-in-law isn't nervous. He's the biggest Penn State fan I know, and the fact that he's nonchalant about this and calm going, I don't know about that. PJ earlier this week said, go ahead, make Ohio State the money line, a little bit of a parlay play for you. Oh boy.
Okay.
All right, PJ, let's see how it goes at Happy Valley. The helmet stripe. The star of the show.
Right. Everybody wearing white there except for the 50-yard line. I give them credit. They do it just about not better than anybody when it comes to that. It was just on Monday that Orlando forward Paolo Banchero had 50 points in a win. Now he's out indefinitely with a torn oblique. Banchero to be evaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. The injury occurring in that loss to Chicago on Wednesday. ESPN has the Magic in Cleveland tonight at 7, followed by Denver, Minnesota at 9:30. In all, there are 9 games in the NBA tonight.
9 times.
Boston playing at Charlotte. The Lakers are up in Toronto.
Okay.
Through a representative, A's owner John Fisher, is there a bigger jerk in the world than John Fisher? Well, he says he and his family will invest $1 billion into the construction of a stadium in Vegas, while a U.S. Bank and Goldman Sachs will offer a $300 million loan as part of this. Construction is expected to begin in the spring with a targeted opening of 2028. As much as $380 million in public money is going into that stadium. Again, none of this final. Well, that's the plan they're putting out there right now. The team announcing on Thursday that it's going to play 60 of its 81 home games in Sacramento at night, 11 of those day games to be held in April and May, as temperatures in July and August average 103 degrees in Sacramento.
Yeah, it's not great. Let me think here. So 60 of the 81, and then you got another 11. That's 71. So there's still 10 games that they're going to be forced to play during the daytime.
You have to on a Sunday. Like, you have to let the players get out of town there. So
right. And the average temperature is what in the summertime?
103.
Not great, Bob.
As part of that, too, they're putting in a grass field instead of the turf, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the AAA team is still going to be playing there.
Wow.
When the Bisons were sharing with the Bisons didn't share. I forgot where they went to.
They went to Florida, didn't they? Weren't they playing games in Florida at the time?
No, what am I saying? The Bisons weren't. The Jays.
The Jays were playing where the Bisons. They were playing in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And where did the Bisons go?
The Bisons went.
Did they come here?
They went to Connecticut, I want to say. Somebody can help me out on that.
There were some games here, though, too. There weren't any games here during the pandemic?
Maybe.
Or what did we do to help out during the pandemic? Did we have some of the players here or something?
Yeah, the Jays were training here in 2020, but none of us were allowed in, and it really happened, yeah.
I just remember us, being what we are. Good citizens, good partners, helping out our neighbors in need. That's Rochester.
Absolutely.
Put it on a bumper sticker.
City of St. Petersburg is going to spend $6.5 million to clean up and guard against any further harm to Tropicana Field. Still unknown how much it's going to cost and what kind of timeline it's going to take to replace that roof torn off by Hurricane Milton. The new stadium is going up in that area in 2028. One city council person putting their hand up and saying, hey, does it make any sense to spend money for repairs in the Trop if it's only going to be used for 3 more seasons?
I guess my question to that would be, are they going to tear it down when they're done playing baseball there, or are they going to continue to use it for things?
What else is it used for? I don't think anything.
I don't know. I mean, the Astrodome is still a thing.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Like, it's still there. We're like, wait, why is that still
there? Right. I think they tore down the Georgia Dome when they built Mercedes-Benz. I don't think the Georgia Dome is still there. But, sometimes they'll hold on to these domes or these facilities because they're part of the community and you can use them for different things, expos and conferences and concerts or whatever.
Yeah, that's the one part of, the stadium, with the new stadium going up, they really haven't told anybody. How are they knocking that down? What is that going to look like when you're knocking down Highmark?
There's a lot of me that loves the idea of being down in Florida, and then there's a lot of me that hears stories like this, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just kind of a mess down there. Everything feels sloppy and overpriced.
Insurance. Insurance.
That's big.
Yeah, that's big. Good luck with that.
That's a big one.
Yeah, finally, if you're 24-year-old Jordan Hudson, you want to dress up for Halloween, why not do it with your boyfriend? Bill Belichick dressed up as a fisherman casting a line where he caught a mermaid in Jordan Hudson.
Wait a minute. I thought she was dressed up as Bill Belichick, the coach.
So, to clarify, because we had that story yesterday.
Yeah, we need a little bit of let's explore Nantucket.
That was actually from her trip this past weekend. The trip this past weekend, one of her girlfriends was getting married. So
Bachelorette weekend.
Bachelorette weekend in the world's most happiest place. Now, for the executive producer, she was down at Epcot at the Food and Wine Festival and did you see her? No, I didn't see her. I'm like, that would have been really kind of funny. But so that was then. This was yesterday. And for all I know, this was actually on Nantucket there. Jordan Hudson and right on the beach there.
Now, if you're new to the sports bar, we have a theory that Bill Belichick is with 24-year-old Jordan Hudson because he, being experienced, prestigious, and I'm sure his bank account helps some, but he probably knows his way around Nantucket better than any 20-something-year-old guy does.
Yeah, he's lived there his whole life. He's riding
his
bike.
Not what I'm exactly talking about.
No, he knows his bike.
I know. We know a few things about Nantucket. What do we know about Nantucket, Gino?
It's exclusive.
It is exclusive. It's hard to get to, hard to find. You have to kind of know your way around to be happy.
But once you're there, it's great.
Once you're there,
it's fantastic.
You might as well call it Pleasure Central. It is fantastic. It's Pleasure Town, baby. And Bill Belichick knows how to explore Nantucket better than any other dude out there, at least any dude in his 20s. So Jordan Hudson latches on to Bill Belichick because he knows how to explore Nantucket.
Ryan Fitzpatrick might have had the best line on this couple.
So good.
Saying that, hey, to anybody right now, if you're 48-year-old and you're giving up on romance, don't worry. That person's being born right now.
Yeah. And he did it with 3 heart emojis afterwards. It was just a complete dunk. I mean, just a backboard shattering dunk on a coach who owned him, really. I mean, you have to imagine that Belichick, at any time, whether it was with the Bills or the Jets or the Dolphins or whoever, was this guy again. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Considering that he played for 3 divisional teams and the Patriots never invited him in, and I don't know if you knew this or not, Danger. He actually played his college ball at Harvard, which is in Boston.
Never got a look.
No.
Really? Maybe he holds it against him. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Wait, you mean to tell me Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard? Because I'd never heard that before. Wow. He must be really, really smart. And Fitzy's a traditional guy, right? He's married with, 7 kids, something like that?
He married his college sweetheart. She was on the soccer team. He was on the football team.
So a little bit of a dig there on the guy who is dating the 24-year-old and coached against him all those years in the AFC East. I love it.
He did. Fitzpatrick in 2011 got over in Buffalo.
Once. The Jets.
It was great.
Nothing with the Jets.
Pretty sure no.
And I'm pretty sure nothing with the Dolphins, right?
Somebody can correct us.
Look, if it doesn't matter because he was so dominant as a head coach while he was with the Patriots during that regime, during the Brady era. Forget it. I mean, like it's you can look it up and say, oh, he did get over on him once or twice. Okay, so what? So what? And he played. You're right. That probably burns more than anything. Like he could have been Tom Brady's backup at some point. He's from the area. Went to school in the area. No. Jets, Dolphins, Bills. I love that tweet. That's a good one. It's too bad it's not in audio form. That would be Take of the Year nominee worthy. We're going to come back with last call next. You have the final say at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Gino, make the call. Should we do another pair of Dweezil Zappa tickets?
I got a pair here, buddy. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We got another pair of Dweezil Zappa tickets, last pair of the week. They went on sale this morning. He's coming to Kodak Center April 15th, 2025. If you want to see the son of Frank, the great Dweezil Zappa by Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama, then be caller 5 now, 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. 95.7.
Last call, 866-4326 is the number, 585-866-4FAN. We appreciate you checking us out this afternoon. However you may be doing so, 95.7 FM, AM 950, our home online, the free-to-download Odyssey app. That's AUDACY, and that's also where you can find our full conversation with ESPN's Marcel Louis-Jacques, who stopped by the sports bar last hour. Man, it was good to catch up with our old buddy from ESPN. He used to cover the Buffalo Bills, now covering the Dolphins.
Fantastic conversation. Learned a lot with Marcel. And the Dolphins are one of these teams, Danger, that the system is great when you have everything and all the personnel working. And now with the injuries, specifically to Tua and everything else, but the Dolphins a little flimsy there. It's a head coach that really hasn't adapted to the personnel that was given to him. That showed up big time when Tua went down.
Yeah, just a couple of takeaways from that conversation as we get ready for Sunday's kickoff at 1 here on the Fan Rochester. Marcel believes that it will be a desperate Miami team, not as much a defeated Miami team. I tend to believe that a team that lost the way they lost at home to Arizona with Tua back in the lineup just last week might come in a little bit defeated, especially when you consider who the opponent is and how they've owned you over the course of the last, really throughout the Sean McDermott era. And the Josh Allen era, certainly. So I've got the Bills winning 35-17. I believe they win, and they buck some trends and cover, even though they're a 6-point favorite going into this game.
I think if the Bills end up losing this game, right, it's the Bills who beat the Bills, right? It
has to be.
Yeah, do you see like all of a sudden the Dolphins snapping their fingers and it's a shootout and, hey, the Miami had the ball last. Hey, what can you do? I don't see that.
You'd really have to lose discipline defensively, which doesn't happen often with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, think about the last time we saw a big play. It was the Houston game, right? And how infrequently you see blown coverages or guys that just don't know where they need to be. And can you run the ball against Buffalo? Well, the belief is, yes, you can, and Achane is certainly a player to take notice of. But for all the talk of last week of the Bills potentially getting gashed by Kenneth Walker,
it didn't happen. No, and you get Terrell Bernard back for this game. I guess my concern is the injuries here, and they're being, as they normally are, kind of vague here. Amari Cooper, wrist injury. Christian Benford, wrist injury. If I had to guess, I think both guys are out there.
Yeah, I believe that both of them will be out there. Limited this week. We know that Reggie Gilliam is the one player who will not be out there, special teamer, and a guy that you see from time to time in that fullback role for the Buffalo Bills offensively. But Gilliam out. Both Samuel and Cooper is questionable. Benford questionable, as you mentioned as well. There's your Buffalo Bills injury report. And if there are updates through the course of the weekend, of course, we'll have everything ready for you by the time we get to pregame, which is 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. Kickoff just after 1 o'clock with Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio. I know.
The music always gets me. It's
I
like,
know.
no, it's...
I know. Closing time is always bittersweet here in the sportsbook because we have so much fun, and we can't do it without you. Without you, our regulars who call us up at 866-4FAN, who engage with us on X at The Fan Rochester, who like and subscribe and comment on the YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, where we stream every day, or on Twitch at The Fan Rochester, where we stream every day. We appreciate y'all for checking us out. We hope you have a fantastic sports weekend. We're back Monday afternoon starting at 3 o'clock with Mike Catalana, the Hall of Famer from 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus at 325, and Infinity Sports Network's Ryan Hickey, Hot Take Hickey, stopping by at 425. That's Monday. We'll talk to you next then. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester.